Let's hit it. All right. I think we're recording. So, well, for all of you guys who are watching this, this is Kyle with Snowbike Nation, and I'm here with Allen Mangum from formerly Timbersled, founder of Timbersled, and now founder of Mountaintop Snowbike. So we're gonna just talk snowbikes and BS, and just kind of give you guys all the inside knowledge that Allen has, and kind of go through his background and history, and yeah, it should be fun. So I'll just lift up my screen here. You can kind of see my really messy shop right now.
Oh, you're okay. So you're in your shop.
Yeah, man. I'm sitting here at my desk. This is
what is it? Where does it look like I'm sitting?
It looks like you're sitting in a shop. I mean, I assume you are. Or your garage.
Oh yeah. No. This is my shop. It goes on and on though. It goes all over the place back here.
Yeah, mine's pretty small. It's like 1,450 square feet, and I'm already overflowing. So we're already looking for new stuff, new arrangements. So it'll happen, little by little, man. So well, Allen, let's kind of get into it, man. First of all, thanks, dude, for taking time out of your busy day. I know you guys are in the thick of it. It's September 15th, and you guys are busy literally building kits right now, putting stuff together, trying to fulfill orders. We had the official launch just over a week ago, September 6th. So I think, first of all, I'd love to hear how that went, man.
Well, it went pretty good. So we launched. We have a limited amount of product that we're going to have available here in October. So our plan is to ship our first run of product in October. We sold through those literally before lunch.
I figured that would happen.
And we have to be really careful because we get shortages of parts, right? Everything's on schedule. It's going to be here or whatever. And then it shows up and you're too short of something. Well, you can be short one item in a kit and not be able to finish the thing. So those are our challenges. Those challenges are real. Everybody that in any industry is having this same problem. So we still don't have every last part to put final kits together. So again, we're having to tell our customer or dealer when the part's going to be available or when it's going to ship, and we get things like parts that are supposed to be here last week that don't show up, and pretty soon you make a phone call and find out that they haven't even been shipped yet for some odd reason. So I don't remember having problems quite this bad back at Timbersled. We built for quite a few years and pretty large volumes, and it seems like we were always delivering on time. So I think it'll get better. It's showing promising signs like it's getting better, like companies that have staff problems and whatever their excuses. It seems like they're slowly getting it figured out, even though we're still dealing with the same problems we were a year ago.
Right. I find that the COVID, at least the COVID excuse, has kind of gone away a little bit. Oh, COVID,
Well, now it's just right down to nobody wants to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody needs a job, I guess. I don't know.
Yep.
So I'm pretty lucky. I got a few guys that are pretty close to me that are all helping me. I call it help, but we pay them.
Well, of course, yeah.
But I'm just grateful to have some help. But we do a lot. Like Rush and I, we work long hours, and we're in here putting parts together just the same as anybody else that we'd have in here working.
Yeah. What would you say is like a percentage in terms of stuff that you're manufacturing or creating in-house versus what you have to ship in from other guys?
Well, we source everything. We don't manufacture anything here. That is something that's different this time around from when I was at Timbersled. So at Timbersled, we manufactured everything in-house. we had a huge staff of people, a massive building, multiple buildings. Assembly was off site, offices were in one building, we had storage buildings. It was a lot more. Now I'm sourcing everything through companies. Some of them are local, some of them are in the Northwest, some of them are in Montana, some of them are in Minnesota, some of them are in New York, all over the U.S. There's even some Canadian-made products, plastic products and rubber products. But yeah, they're all domestically sourced. Domestic meaning they're all U.S. Canadian made.
So it's really the assembly that's happening down there in Idaho Falls.
Yep. So the whole business part of it. So engineering, designing, developing, mechanicking, assembly. Nobody credits how big the assembly job is, but that's the biggest thing we got. And the managing of all the parts.
Just a camera showing just you and Rush there, just putting stuff together all day long.
Well, I mean, it's part of our plan, and you've probably seen something today. We are going to post manufacturing pictures.
Cool.
And of parts, because sometimes they're all laid out real nice, sometimes they're not. So when we get an epic moment or something where you can see the parts, then we'll post these little video shots of it. Nice. And then we'll also be posting some pictures. So manufacturing. So actually several shops, I mean, they're basically shifting their businesses to tailor to this new Snowbike product. And so some of these companies, I mean, they'll end up being over, 50% my products, as we move forward and grow. So these companies, I mean, we treat them as if they were our own shop, so we get to know their people and their guys and, treat the whole situation not as like a vendor, but as, an extension of our own business.
That's awesome. So why, I mean, I'm sure there's several reasons, but why did you guys decide to really, rather than doing stuff in-house, essentially outsourcing it within the States?
Probably because, for one, it's, development is a high cost just in development, but there's a lot of businesses, shops out there that specialize in what they do. So why do I need to go reinvent what somebody else already does? So, I mean, take an example as a company that can build suspension shafts. It takes a pretty razoo live tool twin spindle lathe that costs, $750,000 to build shafts, so I could never afford that kind of equipment.
Right.
We can do it with traditional CNC lathes and stuff, but why would I when there's a company that specializes in building shafts? And so, we obviously pay a premium for that because you're, hiring them to build a part, but they build them way faster, way better than we can. So companies that specialize in what they do and utilizing their resources, that's really the driving factor of not trying to get back into manufacturing. Because to get back into manufacturing too, there's always the issue of, trying to get employees. You need a great big building. You got to have it all set up. I mean, it's a long road of establishment to be able to even start doing that. And so I've started from nothing, right? I sold my original company. I didn't have anything. So everything has to be purchased. It's a lot. And, this product line that we're building, I mean, it's a big product line. It's not like we're building a set of suspension arms for a snowmobile or something. We're building basically the whole dang thing here as an aftermarket company. There's a lot of parts and pieces in that. So it's a big product.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I mean, I think personally it's pretty cool that you guys are, not only are you building this thing or, manufacturing it all within the United States, but I mean, a lot of it within the Northwest. I mean, like you said, Idaho, Montana, this kind of area. So that's pretty freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, it's 80% Pacific Northwest manufactured.
Wow. Damn.
And a lot of the parts, I mean, you'll see a lot of parts. I mean, we don't advertise them, but they're made by parts of the snowmobile industry, from companies of the snowmobile industry.
Right.
You know, I'm talking about things like, you know, Hayes brake systems. You know, a lot of snowmobiles have Hayes brake systems on them, and Avid drivers, those types of companies.
Right up here in Kalispell.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. That's awesome. And I know we're going to jump around a little bit, but that made me think of parts. So one of the things I've heard out there, rumblings and whatnot, is what is going to be the parts availability, right? I think that's the biggest thing. You know, I was just talking to a guy. He's like, man, if my dealer doesn't carry it, I'm not buying it, because if I break it, I can't walk into the dealership and pick up a new part. So what does that mean for you guys? If something does break or whatever, what does that timeline look like? And is that something that's going to be readily available?
Yeah. So as we get going here, we'll slowly be ramping up the parts inventory. So an example would be, say we're building a certain number of kits. We do build a certain number of replacement parts for those kits. You know, obviously some parts would never get replaced and some parts could get replaced. So we will have an inventory of parts. It's not a massive inventory, but it is an inventory. And as we grow, that inventory will just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And as far as buying the parts, you know, the dealers will slowly have parts available or in stock, but we will, you know, drop ship for our dealers if we need to.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Somebody wipes out a rail or a spindle, we can, and they don't have it, and you call dealer A and he doesn't have that part, and so he'll order that part, and we'll be more than happy just to drop ship it for him. Now, we would expect them to have the part in inventory, but it's impossible, especially starting out.
Of course, and I think one of the coolest things, and I hope people think about this, because the fact that all of the parts are here in the U.S., it's not like it's like, well, they're out of stock till next season. You know, I mean, I would imagine that even if they don't have it ready, they can make one and have it ready fairly soon.
Yeah, there's some truth to that for sure. So, you know, finding the part, I mean, everybody does it a little different, but eventually you'll be able to purchase parts right from our website. I don't, that'll probably won't be available until next year. But we'll start off with basically, say you need a spindle part. So you know, basically go in and look at spindles, and it'll give you a breakdown of all the parts in the spindle, and then an add to cart type of feature.
Yep.
So that'll be available. Not super high on our priority list, because obviously we're just now starting to produce kits. So those type of parts won't really be necessary until a year from now. But otherwise, you just call your dealer or call us directly, and we'll figure out what you need. So
that's awesome.
I think that'll work just fine. And a lot of parts, you know, chains, high facts, you know, those types of items are always readily available through, you know, any dealer, not through us, but just
it's nothing special. Thing. It's chains and chains and a high fax, like a Polaris high fax.
Yeah.
Nothing that you got a special order, so that makes sense. Well, let's kind of segue into, I want to kind of back it up for people who are listening to this, watching this, is a lot of people are going to know the history of Timbersled and your story, but a lot of people don't. And I want to start this off with, so I've had the pleasure of, meeting Allen in person, but also the pleasure of meeting Brett Blazer and, just a lot of the guys that have been in this from the beginning. And so it's been awesome. I've been able to talk to and interview and actually have some interviews I haven't even released yet that I will be releasing here soon, of guys that have been in this from the beginning. And so the history of snowbiking is it actually goes back a long time ago if you start really digging into snow bikes. But for lack of, or for sake of clarity and time, I want to just kind of back up to Moto, because Moto I think was kind of the one of the first, at least that I have seen, first on the scene snowbike kits. And I kind of want to go into that backstory and how you came to, find out about snowbiking, and just kind of get into that history. So, but first, Alan, I think a lot of people want to know, well, where did you grow up, man? And like, yeah, tell us about your history, as a kid, and where you grew up and kind of what you did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I was born and raised in northern Idaho, Sandpoint, Idaho. Lived there until I moved here, four years ago. Here in Idaho Falls, where I live now. Um, so yeah, I was that kid. I was homeschooled. My dad owns
This
an.
is back. This is back before homeschooling was like a thing. It wasn't cool back then because I mean, I'm
Yeah.
40 and I remember the homeschool kids, and you're always kind of like, yeah, I'm buddies with them. Where do you go to school, man? Like, where are you?
Yeah. So yeah, my family, they're born again Christian, so they're religious. So
Yeah.
homeschooling was a thing back then for them, and um, I can't say that I was the smartest guy in the world. I was more of a motorhead, but my dad owns and has always been in the engine rebuilding business. So he doesn't work on cars; he's just a motor builder, automotive engines. And so when I turned 10, I might be a year off or so, but I turned 10 or 11, I started working for my dad. I would clean piston rings off of old engine pistons, and then we would take
That's
them in
awesome.
and recycle them.
And
So
are these are cars, like car
yeah,
motors?
automotive engines.
Okay.
Yeah, just envision an old 390 Ford that's come in to get rebuilt, and it's got 6 inches of grease over the entire thing. Um, yeah, so so then I started by taking piston rings off of pistons and taking them in to get them recycled. So you can imagine an aluminum piston taking in and getting recycled. It's like 50 pop cans, right? Because they're kind of heavy. So that was my pay. I quickly moved into as a I was 11 or 12 years old. My dad had started having me clean parts, engine parts.
And was this more like, all right, son, you're going to school, but you're not. I mean, for people that haven't homeschooled, you're not in school all day, right? And so was
Well,
this like you're going to school and then you're working for dad?
yeah, this is after school. This is after school hours.
Okay,
So
okay,
I started work around 3 o'clock, 3:30 maybe. My dad always worked late, just like I do. So he was always there till 7 or 8 o'clock. So I'd
yeah.
get my 3 or 4 hours in. But yeah, just started working at my dad's engine shop. But the one thing my dad did for me that kind of pushed me over the edge, he never bought me an education. As soon as I was old enough to buy my own shoes, of course I wanted name brand, good quality shoes. So I instantly started buying my own stuff. Well, gave me the value of money. But the best thing he ever did is he pushed me into buying a Snap-on toolbox full of tools when I was 12 years old. And
That's
when I was
awesome.
12 years old, I made a weekly payment to the Snap-on tool guy.
Oh my gosh, that's
And
great, dude.
my family didn't have a lot of money, so my shop at home where I had my Snap-on toolbox was my bedroom. And my bedroom wasn't even a bedroom, it was a front porch. And the people that owned the house before me was the person was in a wheelchair, so the porch it was a covered porch, and it had a ramp that came up to the door.
Yeah.
And so I would drive my whatever I could get my hands on with an engine in it up on this porch, and I'd work on them on this porch with my brand spanking new Snap-on tools. So being a gearhead, I first got into go-karts, and I mean, it was so bad that, my engine was pushing the go-kart up to the top of the porch and driving it down the ramp, because I never had an engine that ran. And then eventually I could afford an engine.
What year is this? So you're 12 years old, get your first Snap-on tool set. And so, yeah, what year is this?
I don't know. I was born in 1979, 43 years old.
So this is like the 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I'm going to need a calculator.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, so this is like, I don't know, early 90s.
Yeah, it's like when I grew up. I'm just thinking like go-karts. I remember, go-karts were a big thing.
Yeah. And these weren't like go-karts you bought at the store. These were go-karts that you found in somebody's property behind their barn or shop that you asked them to give you. And they were like, yeah, take it away. And you take it home and dig all the knapweed out of it and, take it apart. But because my dad had an engine shop, as you can tell, I'm a clean guy. My whole life's clean. Like, I don't like dirt. So my shop's clean, everything looks nice, my truck's taken care of, and so I would take these go-karts apart and I would sandblast the frames and I'd paint them and I would rebuild them.
Why? I want to get to that. I know you're skipping over this, but why do you think? Is that just a thing that you've always had? Kind of like, I know I'm OCD on some stuff, and so is this just something that just inherently you were always like, or was there something that made you like? Yeah.
No, I was born this way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have OCD on everything, not just some things.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
So I'm a little weird. There's no doubt about it.
I can relate.
But yeah, I like nice stuff, and when I buy stuff and I spend my money on something, I'm going to keep it nice. So those Snap-on tools I'm telling you about are in that toolbox right over there. I still have them all.
Awesome.
I still use them every day.
Great. That's impressive.
So. Yeah, I'm maybe not that bad, but back in the day, I didn't have one fingerprint on my tool when it went back in the toolbox.
You're over, Allen's over there, you're wiping them down.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yep.
Dude, that's great. Well, hell yeah.
So those are my golden years. Quickly got into dirt biking after the go-kart thing.
So how old were you roughly when you got into dirt biking?
I must have been 14 maybe. It was when I could make enough money and coaxed some guy to let me make payments to him for some dirt bike he had.
Yeah.
That's when I got into dirt biking. And I've always been into snowmobiling.
Were you into bikes before? Like just, riding bikes a lot?
Yeah, bikes? BMX bikes. Yep. Okay. Skateboards. I used to skateboard. So some of the highlights I've had in my life from my parents was my dad did build me and my brothers a half-pipe skateboard ramp. So we had that. Awesome. That was our thing, was skateboarding. This was pre-motor stuff.
Yeah.
But when I was a child, I guess I skipped over this part. My dad moved from Southern California in 1978, and I was born in 1979. So I was born in Northern Idaho, but my parents are from Southern California.
Okay.
And my dad bought a new 1979 Skidoo Blizzard when he moved here.
What is that exactly? Because I have zero clue what a Skidoo Blizzard is.
It would be like Skidoo's cool model snowmobile in 1979.
Mm-hmm. So two-stroke. How many cc's?
I think they were 500 cc. This is a Skidoo 5500. You'll have to look it up on the internet. They made a couple different versions. This was a 5500. So I'll tell you about my snowmobile history, because this is what got me into this whole snowmobile business thing. Is snowmobiling was by far the most fun out of all the stuff I did, and I couldn't do anything until I could afford it myself. Right? Nobody's ever given me anything. But when we were small kids, my dad had this snowmobile, and we would ride around in the snowmobile. My dad would tow us on sleds on the snowmobile. Well, eventually the snowmobile got old, and it derailed the track and broke a bunch of parts in the suspension. And that snowmobile sat behind our garage outside, broken. That's not it. No, that's not it. That looks, I don't know what that is. So you need to look for a Skidoo Blizzard 5500.
55. Oh yeah. So for whoever's watching this, if you go to YouTube and you can see what we're looking
third picture
at.
in. Third picture in. Click on that one. is identical to that one.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yep, identical
Nice.
to that one.
So it broke.
Yeah, the suspension broke, and the track
Oh,
got all tangled up in the suspension, and it ripped all the little metal clips off and botched up the rails and stuff. So there it sat broken for the rest of its life.
oh man.
Until this guy comes around, finally is like, I can fix that snowmobile. So I got myself a Dennis Kirk catalog, and I figured out what parts I needed to fix the snowmobile, and I fixed that thing. And that was kind of my first snowmobile project.
Yeah. And what was it that made you really just want to like fix it?
Well, I was a motorhead, right? I wanted
Yeah.
anything with a motor, and it started with talking my freaking brother to push me down the driveway in the dead go-kart. I'm sure we've all done that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
it was anything that would go by itself.
so
It just drove me nuts.
so you go find the parts that you need and you fix this thing. You're what, 15, 16?
No, I'm younger than that. I'm like 14.
Oh wow. Oh, okay. So you order the parts, and did your dad pay for it, or was this like you
Oh,
did
no.
it?
No, I did it. Some of the parts I had to get from a used snowmobile place that was in Coeur d'Alene. That was
Okay.
the next town down. My dad would drive me down there and get my parts, but I
Yeah.
had to get my own wallet out to pay for these things. It wasn't like, Dad, give me a loan so I can pay you back for these things. It was like,
This was
you
your
make the money
this was
first,
your
and now
gig.
you can go. Yeah,
Yeah, this is your gig. He buys the sled, you fix it.
yeah. So that was the first snowmobile. But moving on, I've had quite a few snowmobiles, and all the snowmobiles I've had, I've been able to buy myself. I've been able to take apart myself, rebuild myself, and modify them myself. So I grew all through my teenage years. I built custom snowmobiles, and it was such a passion that before I was even 18 years old, I built custom snowmobiles for people.
Allen, can you explain? Because I think a lot of people who are getting into snow biking, right? They have zero snowmobile background. They're like dirt bikers or mountain bikers or whatever. So explain to people. I mean, back in the '90s and stuff, all we see all these mountain sleds now. Like there was no mountain sleds. I know I've talked to Brett Rasmussen, and he's talked about the evolution of that. So explain to people what you were doing. Like this is not something that people could just go out and buy. So you're making these custom sleds. Why? For what?
Well, okay, so yeah, I mean, back in the '90s, there weren't mountain snowmobiles, and then when they started making mountain snowmobiles, they weren't good enough. So people would take these snowmobiles and modify them with bigger tracks and engine mods, or lightening them up because they were terribly heavy.
Yep.
So, for example, you know what an old phaser looks like.
Oh yeah.
That was probably my first good snowmobile. That was a trail sled. It was a short track, and I had to take it apart and extend the tunnel, and bought an aftermarket track, because aftermarket tracks were better than the tracks that came on the snowmobiles back then. You could start to buy like 136 what we would call a 136 long track, which we've had on Snowbikes, that had an 1 3/16 deep lug track on it.
And that was a ripper back then.
Oh, that you were a god on the hill if you had that. So that was early, 93 maybe, 94 in there.
Yeah. I mean, you and other people that were doing this, like you guys are the guys that pushed the mountain sleds into fruition, where it was like, this is what we need. We need bigger, better, faster. And then years later, the industry follows.
We aided in pushing the industry to mount, what it is today,
Yep.
and I'll fast forward quite a few years, but I mean, let's get
not too many. We don't want to go too many years. I want to hear this
I kind
story.
of got to, because we could stay here and talk about snowmobiles for 3 hours.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Yeah. So if you want to watch a good video that's old, You want to go watch
Okay.
Getting a Little Crazy at Tony Grove. That was my
Getting a
favorite
little
snowmobile,
crazy.
Getting a Little Crazy at Tony Grove. That was my
Okay.
favorite snowmobile of all time. And so I had that exact snowmobile. It was a 900cc 3-cylinder Thundercat machine. In 1994, I think, or 93 is when they came out. And I didn't get mine until probably 96 it was used. Same thing, it was a trail sled,
Yeah.
converted mountain sled. I had to convert it several times because between 95 and 98 or even 2000, sleds were changing a lot because we went from 136 to 141 long tracks to 156 long tracks. So yeah, if you watch Getting a Little Crazy at Tony Grove, that was
So
my favorite snowmobile video.
is this like, yeah, I'm looking on YouTube. I don't see it on here. We'll have to find it and put it in the show notes here. Is this like a sled next, like early sled next?
It's like an early snowmobile video of mountain
Got it.
snowmobiling back in the 90s.
That's
And
awesome. All right.
these were the baddest snowmobiles you could buy.
Yeah, I'll
Modified, of
have to
course.
find this. Yeah, that's awesome. So Getting a Little Crazy at Tony Grove. All right, so this is, you get your first. Well, you wouldn't even call it a mountain sled, right? I mean, this is a trail sled that you got.
It's a trail sled that you convert into a mountain sled because it had lots of horsepower.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking an engine that's capable of 200 horsepower back in the mid 90s.
Damn.
So if I could just find it on my phone, I'll text you a picture of mine because I think I have it.
Oh, that's
so,
you have yours?
No, I don't have it anymore. I just have a picture of a.
No, that's what I mean. You got the picture.
Yeah, a picture of a picture. I took a picture of my.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got to go way back.
Yeah.
I have to thumb through here and look at this, but if I can find it,
yeah, we'll
I'll
have to find it. Yeah, I have to send it to me. We'll post it here. So that's awesome, man. So where do you go from here? So you get this snowmobile, and why this specific one?
This specific one was because it was the biggest engine snowmobile that money could buy in that day.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was a fine line between weight and horsepower. In this case, it was more horsepower than, it was really heavy. But I had mine modified right up to the last bolt on it. It was super cool.
That's awesome, man.
So anyway, fast forward to like say 1998, 97, 98. That's when the 700 RMK came out. That was the first good snowmobile ever made.
The 700 RMK?
The 700 RMK, 1997 is when that machine was released.
To find that one. 1997 Polaris RMK. Is that like a triple?
Nope, it's a 700cc twin with a 1 3/4 136 long track.
And the most powerful stock snowmobile you could buy at the time?
No, it was just the first real mountain snowmobile.
Oh, I gotcha.
And had a 700cc twin, which is a very similar engine as what snowmobiles run today.
Got it. I had a whole article.
Because prior they were all like 3-cylinder, like triples, and 500cc twins. So this is the first big cc or bigger cc 2-cylinder mountain snowmobile.
I think one thing we need to have come back is the awesome suits and helmets everybody wore in the 90s. Look at these. This is great.
Yeah, they worked great.
Here it is, the 97 Polaris.
No, that's not it.
Oh, that's not it? Oh, okay.
That's an Ultra.
Oh, Ultra. Yeah, that's not the right one. Where the hell is it on here?
It's on there. It's that teal colored one.
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
And then the next year they were blue.
Okay. So you buy this one, and then where do you go from here?
So I didn't end up with one the first year. I was still running my Thundercat, and I could still beat most of them on my Thundercat.
What
Um,
what was the snowmobile scene like? Describe it, because again, people who have zero clue about snowmobiling, and I grew up in Idaho as well, so I understand. But describe the scene in Idaho and snowmobiling, man. I mean, this is like life in the winter.
yeah, I mean, everybody which in my case were all older people that had money and could buy new things, and I'm trying to keep up with everybody on my old junk.
What are you doing
And I'm
for work?
working for my dad.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
working at the engine shop. Became quite the engine builder. Um, my main thing was cylinder heads. I built cylinder heads, and my dad's shop's a performance engine shop. They do a lot of
Okay.
boat engines, restoration, cars, um, few just engine rebuilds, but mostly customized stuff. And it's a small shop. It's just him. He's been doing all his life, and he's like the godfather of engine
Yeah, he
rebuilding.
loves it. He's the man.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So you're basically trying to keep up with the Joneses of the people of the snowmobile world around you.
pretty much. Yep, yep. Trying
What
to.
what was it that was what was it that was driving you to do that? Was it just because it was so fun to ride and you just wanted the best?
Well, I don't know how you describe what you get when you're born, but my desire to drive anything with an engine was just so overwhelming. I couldn't even hardly deal with myself. Um,
That's
so
awesome, man.
to have
That makes
to
sense, Alan.
right, so that motivated me to make money so that I could do what I wanted to. And of course, I'm a kid, homeschooling, living at my parents' house. You know, I'm a hard worker. I could make money. I figured that out. Um, and I worked every second of every day that they would let me, just so I could make money to put my money or buy this stuff or put my money into this stuff. And
Yeah.
of course, I was motivated because you couldn't buy anything that was any good, and I wanted to be, the best. I mean, I might get beat down for this, but we rode like Chris Brandt before Chris Brandt was around, right? we
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were tree riders. We rode trees and mountains and all the same mountains we ride today on these old pieces of junk. And they're not pieces
That's
of junk. They
awesome.
were really awesome back then.
Yeah. That's
And
what you
I'm just a
had.
creative guy, so I wanted to modify my stuff, and so that just progressed into more and more advanced stuff. So now I fast forward to like 1999, and in 1999, I built a handful of custom snowmobiles for my friends. These were the guys that had money. And in
Right.
1997 or
And,
8,
and what does that mean, custom snowmobile? I mean, you're talking like explain that to people. I mean, fabrication, like what?
yeah, so it's take a factory snowmobile, take it all apart, put a bigger track on it, make suspension modifications, put a lightweight hood on it, lightweight seat, taller handlebars, longer tunnel, pipes, cylinder head, cylinder porting, bigger carburetors, rolled chain case. There you go. There's a term that nobody's heard
I
for
was
a
gonna
while.
say the rolled chain case. Yeah,
We take the
explain
chain
what
case.
that is.
We
Yeah.
take the chain case out of the snowmobile. We cut it in half. We weld in about 2 inches in length to it, so you have to run a longer chain, and you roll it down and back to do a couple things. One is it cleared a bigger track because the snowmobile didn't
Okay.
have clearance for a bigger track. Two, it gave you a flatter track angle, and we all thought that that's what it took to get on top of the snow. So it did to some extent, um, but mostly it was to fit and clear a bigger track. We also raised the snowmobiles up, longer drop brackets to get them more clearance because these are basically modified trail sleds.
Yep.
Um, and paint jobs, wild paint jobs. We didn't have wraps like they have today. You get to put a
Right.
paint job on it.
Yeah.
Um,
There it is. There's Alan's custom sled right there.
this is my Thundercat. So pull up the other picture of that stock one and then look at this.
So this is a triple.
Yep, it's a 9900 cc triple.
Okay. And what's it called again?
Arctic Cat
Thundercat.
Thundercat.
What year?
1993 Thundercat.
Thundercat. All right. Dude, I remember the
And,
cartoon
and
Thundercats.
for, unfortunately, I don't have the hood on it here, but
Here we go. That's kind of a good looking one.
I can talk all day at
Dude,
what's modified on this thing. So
you want to hear something funny, Alan? I just remembered this. This is the first snowmobile. This is what I bought 8 years ago that got me into snowmobiling. I bought this and I went out and it immediately died after about 6 miles. And come to find out, there was just it was a slight carburetor issue, and we brought it back, cleaned the carburetors, and yeah, this is what got me into snowmobiling. So that's kind of funny. That's hilarious, dude. And my buddy bought almost the identical one. We both had one. And
it's
then we went and
Thundercat.
bought yeah, and then we went and bought well, what's the other one? It looks just like this.
Well,
Maybe it's
they
not the
all look
Thundercat.
kind of the same. So if you're
But it was a
talking about it,
93. It was
uh,
like I mean, it
there's
literally looked like
there's
this.
Jags, there's Panthers, there's EXTs, there's Powder Specials.
That's what it was. EXT. That's the one.
EXT, okay, yeah, that's a little bit different than this.
Okay.
So an
Okay.
EXT is a 580 cc two
Yeah,
cylinder.
that's right. 580, not 700.
This is a
So
900
not
three cylinder.
oh, oh this is a 900. Shit.
900, yeah.
That's a beast of a sled. Wow. Yeah, it looks slick, man. I'm surprised you don't have a one now restored, ready to go.
Well, I wish I did,
You're
but
looking. So,
no, I don't know. Someday I will.
if anybody knows about this sled anywhere, hit up Alan and send him some pictures of it in the
Yeah.
grass. Grass growing up through it. That's awesome, man. So yeah, so you're doing full on custom jobs. So what does that look like in the 90s, like in terms of cost for someone? If they're like, hey, Alan, here's my sled, make it badass and just, no limit on funds. Like, I mean, how much is someone
Oh,
going to spend on that?
yeah. I mean, they're still in at $10,000, $12,000, right? Because
Damn.
and so I was just about to tell you, it was 1999. I built several snowmobiles for my friends. So these guys bought new snowmobiles that I then brought and took apart and built new tunnels, rolled chain cases, modified suspensions, shocks,
Hmm.
lightweight hoods, pipes on the engine, better intake systems, and stuff. So yeah, there's the Thundercat.
Yeah, I thought I was showing it before, but apparently I wasn't sharing my screen. So yeah, there it is.
Yeah, it looks
Um,
just like that one. It's just trail sled.
it looks badass. I
No,
mean, geez, I mean,
that was one bad dude when it came out, like back in the day. Yeah, mine was this one. This is a 93 here. That's a
yeah,
94. The
this
green
one.
one's a
Oh,
94.
okay.
The,
Got it. This is what
the
yours
orange
look
one's a
like.
93. Yeah.
Got it. Two up, 900 cc.
Oh,
So yeah,
mine even came with a two up seat.
so you had the little backrest right there.
Yeah, yeah. When I first got it, it had
Nice.
that exact seat on it.
That's awesome. So yeah, so what sort of cost then were you saying?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna guess 12,000 dollars. You'd end up. I'm
Shit.
talking 1999.
Yeah, that's a lot of
You know.
money. It's a
But
lot of
this
money,
sled
man.
here, this Thundercat, I think they were about 75 to $8,000, and
Wow.
back then that was by far the most expensive snowmobile. I didn't pay
Absolutely.
that much because I bought mine used, but um,
Yeah.
people just
Tricked
thought
it
Arctic
out.
Cat was nuts for charging that much for a snowmobile.
But they got it right.
Yeah, you wanted to go fast, that's what you had to have.
That's right. Someone's always willing to pay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you go to making custom sleds and you're what, early 20s, late
No,
teens?
no, I'm not even 18. Yeah.
and you're already fabricating and making custom snowmobiles.
Well, so here's another piece. So I worked for my dad, right? And when I
Yeah.
turned 18, and I can't remember what year that, it was probably 97, somewhere in there. I went. logging, and the guys that I was building snowmobile stuff for owned the logging company that I worked for. So I went logging because I needed to make more money. I wanted to start my own business, like a real business, which ended up
And
being
did you know what that was going to be?
Well, at first I thought I would be a custom snowmobile builder. I wanted to build like, these snowmobiles that I built for these guys, something similar to that. And I envisioned in my head building machines from scratch using like a Polaris engine or something, similar to what CMX did. They were really my idol.
That's
like
so for everybody.
CMX Snowbikes. They were
For
CMX
everybody.
Snowmobiles, and they started
for,
in the early '90s, and they made the absolute coolest snowmobiles that the world has ever seen.
Mark Hoffman, Crazy Mountain Extreme over here in Montana.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
That guy goes way back, and I've even used some of his components on my snowmobiles over the years. So I've known Mark a long time.
Awesome.
But yeah, he was the idol of the snowmobile industry in the 90s because he built the absolute coolest custom snowmobiles. He had his own body work and stuff. So I was doing all of that too at a much smaller scale, but without the custom body work. That was his thing. He had the look, the CMX look.
And they still do. They have the flashy look. I mean, on their kits, that's kind of been their thing.
They just had their own hoods and their own body work. I mean, they were sharp. He invented the belt drive. There was no belt drive until Mark came around.
So I just had a conversation with him, kind of funny, last week, and he talked about that. So he's like the guy that came up with it for snowmobiles.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he made, I don't know what year he started making belt drives, but I put them on my sleds when I was, not all my sleds, but a couple of them, when I was, Mr. Timbersled. So
were they chain driven then?
Well, they all had chain cases on them. Yeah, chains and oil. And
you're not talking about the CVT. You're not talking about the CVT.
No. I'm talking about the chain case. The goes from the clutch to the track.
Got it. Okay, I'm tracking.
Yep.
That was Mark's deal.
That was Mark's deal. Yeah.
So everybody knew who he was. You're seeing CMX building this stuff.
He still has the best belt drive for snowmobiles. I know he doesn't sell them for snowmobiles anymore, but one thing that was unique about his belt drive was his brake system was on the drive axle. It wasn't up on the jack shaft. So, if you ever lost a belt or broke a belt, you still had brakes. I never broke a belt. They were fantastic. But yeah, his unique thing is he had the brake on the drive axle itself. Snowmobiles.
I'm gonna have to look up some of his stuff here. We'll have to show a picture of CMX snowmobile.
Well, you should do one of these with him because he's got
we're gonna do it. I want to get all the OGs together one of these days. We'll do some fun around the campfire stories. Oh my gosh, yeah, look at these things. Hold on, I gotta share a screen. Those are freaking sick looking, man.
Yeah, this is the best of the best here.
All right, check these out. So CMX, wow.
That's a new one there. Click on the one below it, the red one.
Right here? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, that's what they looked like.
And was Mark, other people were doing this, right? But Mark was kind of the leader here in this.
He was light years ahead of everybody, in my opinion. And he was really my inspiration. He probably doesn't know this, but he was really my inspiration. Now. Yeah, he was really my inspiration to want to go into business and create my own thing. So, but
that's awesome,
as I built my own snowmobiles and was figuring out my own recipe, I was engineering at that time the components that became Timbersled.
Here's the belt drive.
Yeah, blow that up.
Damn, that thing's freaking intense looking. See if we can see it bigger here. Oh, that's not it. Huh. Yeah, we'll have to look around for it here. There we go. It's not a very good picture, but you can see it. I mean, that thing
Well,
is
that's
crazy.
it.
Wild, man.
So that was just one of his parts of many.
So he's doing, like you said, his body work was kind of the big thing, and
Just his whole package. I mean, he had the best
yeah.
suspensions, the best shocks, the best engines, engine builders. I
Oh, he
mean,
was doing engines and everything.
well, no, he used like PSI type engines. I mean, he used a lot of different engines, but mostly it was modified Polaris engines, Polaris
Got it.
2-cylinder engines.
Got it. So Mark's the was the inspiration. So that's cool, man.
Well,
And he's still going strong.
he deserves a lot of credit and respect in this industry. So
Yeah, he's a good guy. I've enjoyed talking to him and meeting him a few times, and looking forward to riding on, actually doing some rides on his kits finally this season.
So yeah, and then Timbersled didn't get started until 2002. So the part that put me on the map was my what we called at the time the Barkbuster front suspension. And with that, I built trailing arms and spindles. I had a new way of doing spindles at that time, and this is what I was putting on the sleds I was building prior to Timbersled. We had a trail. You know how sleds used to have trailing arms on them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And right now they have A arms on them, but they had trailing arms on them, and so I invented the external steer spindle. So I had trailing arms that had a spindle where the whole spindle turned versus a spindle inside of a shaft or a tube.
Yeah, I'd have to see what that looks like. I'm such a visual
Well,
person.
look
Is
at
there
any
a
modern snowmobile; it's going to have an external steer spindle. There's no such thing. We'll see.
okay
There's a picture. There's a picture right there, right in the middle of
right
your
here?
screen with the old yellow tag next to it.
Oh, right here.
Yep, that's a Timbersled part right there.
Barkbuster.
Yep.
Here it is installed. Oh wow.
So
And this was not a thing that snowmobiles were doing.
not when I started doing it. These are A-arm. This is a late model snowmobile here.
But I mean,
That's
right
probably
here,
like
this is the Barkbuster, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's an A-arm snowmobile. I'm talking. This goes further back. This is trailing arm snowmobiles.
Oh, right. I gotcha. See if we can find one here. Yeah. You'll have to
Well,
send me
you'll
some
need to look up
pictures. We'll
like
post them.
Timbersled Barkbuster trailing arm.
Trailing arm. There we go. See what comes up.
This is like before the internet. This is like before the internet.
This is pre-internet. What is internet? You'll have to send me some pictures. I'll post them on the show notes and stuff.
I'll have to find some. I see lots of Barkbuster stuff, but it's all A-arm stuff. So we built trailing arms years before we ever built A-arms.
Huh.
I see a trailing arm, but it doesn't look. It's not one of mine.
Yeah. So you start building these specific, and why specifically?
Okay, so the whole purpose was several things. One is we needed to shave some weight off the front end, so we made them out of chromoly tubing. Everybody knows I love chromoly tubing. So they were built out of chromoly.
Why is that? Why?
Because
Alan?
you can make them light and strong, and they're super bend resistant.
I mean, KTM's are made from chromoly. That must be why you like KTM so much.
It probably is if you dug deep enough in my head. But the point of the steering and the spindle to be external to basically to the side of the trailing arm was I could make them turn sharper. I could make the turning radius sharper. I could modify the caster and some geometry on the front end to make them steer better in deep snow.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you got stuck, you had to pull on your ski. Well, all the trailing arms that were out there on factory stuff, you couldn't pull on the ski, just break the steering stops off of them. Right? You couldn't pull sideways
If
on
you
the ski.
pulled on the ski?
Yeah, you'd break the stop and the whole steering would go like the wrong direction.
Wow.
And so this system was good because the steering stop was the spindle turning into the corner of the trailing arm, so it stopped and really solidly. You could pull on the ski literally as hard as you wanted to get unstuck. We didn't roll
so that was
snowmobiles
obviously,
over then.
Yeah, that
we
was
didn't roll them
obviously
over to get out.
that was a necessity then, being able to pull your sled out. Why didn't you guys roll them over?
Well, because they were carbureted, and when you rolled them over, they just flood the engine so terribly you'd never be able to get it started again.
Got it. So this is like 2003, you said?
Well, I started selling them in 2002.
Okay.
But I was running them from 1999 to about 2001 before I was building them and selling them to, friends and people.
Yeah, and you're welding these up yourself. Like you're doing the work, the fabrication.
Yep, all hand fabricated.
Okay. And this is out of your dad's shop?
I started Timbersled at my parents' garage shop at their house. But this shop that I started in, I'll send you a picture of it because I have one, but it didn't have any wiring or insulation in it. So I had to wire it and insulate it and put lights in it and basically make it usable.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you this here.
And the floor was so clean you could eat off it.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's pretty nice. So this picture is of one of the snowmobiles I built in that shop.
Email it to me this time. Email it, and then I can pull it right
I don't know that I've ever replied to you, have I?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Hang on.
Or just reply to the last email that I sent you there, yeah. We can bring it right up. So, dude, you basically then your whole adult life, I mean, you started Timbersled when you were what, 19? 20?
I don't know. Good calculator.
Allen, you said you're like you got this stuff dialed. I thought you would know, man. So, well, you said you started selling the arms in '99, and then what was the year you actually started the Timbersled name?
2002. I was 23 years old.
Dude, that's freaking.
I got a calculator.
Awesome. 20 years ago, man.
So this picture I just sent you is of my first shop at my parents' property. It is of the snowmobiles. I built all my snowmobiles looked exactly the same color, same everything. This is one of the snowmobiles. So this is a 1999 completely modified 700 RMK with my suspension my Barkbuster suspension I was building.
Okay.
Did it come through?
I'm pulling it up right now. It's doing its little send and receive, so I'm sure it's gonna pop up. All right, here we go. It might take a minute for it to send on your end.
I sent it as large.
Oh yeah, here it is. Allen's first shop. All right, let me pull it up here. Oh dude, look at you, man. Freaking that's awesome. Oh, let me share my screen.
I was 20 years old at that time.
This is great, dude. I remember the style of hat. I remember those. Dude, that's a clean looking freaking sled, man. Look at that. Red and black. Is that your favorite colors?
No.
Is that your okay.
My favorite color was burgundy, and you can see all my shop shelving was burgundy. It's still you look at the Timbersled factory today and it is full of burgundy painted benches and parts.
Burgundy, huh?
Just go into the factory today and you'll see it. The same paint that's on these shelves here.
That's awesome. So this is the first shop.
This is where Timbersled was started.
That's freaking great,
This
dude.
sled was built in 1999.
It looks like it rips.
It's a 700 RMK with a 156 2-inch track. Maybe it was 2.25 then. I can't remember. 2.25, I think. All aftermarket, all lightweight. We're talking 400-pound snowmobiles here.
Jeez. What sort of horsepower was this thing pushing?
Oh, 100 and I don't know, 70 maybe.
So you, wow,
180
horsepower.
maybe.
So you build this for you. This is like your
No,
dream. Oh, okay.
This is a customer snowmobile.
Got it. What do you think when you pick this thing up, man?
Well, I mean, at the time, I mean, the only thing you could buy that was better than that was a CMX. You know, but this is pretty on par with that, I'd say. So, yeah, we ran either modified 700cc Polaris engines or a Genesis PSI Genesis, 990 or whatever they were, 970 at that time engines.
So what is not fabricated on this by you? Because it looks
Nothing.
like a lot of it is.
It's custom from head to toe. So the hood is the same shape as a factory hood, but that's an Outlaw composite hood. So it's a lightweight fiberglass hood. But yeah, it's custom from head to toe, from ski tip to bumper.
Damn. So even the skis?
Even the skis. That's a Simmons 6-inch ski. That's what we started using on the first Snowbike.
Yeah, I've heard those stories. So this ski, like you designed or you created, or what's the story there?
No, that's an aftermarket ski of that era.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, some of the stuff I buy, like the hoods. There was a hood manufacturer that built hoods, so I buy the hoods and the windshields.
But none of this is OEM, is what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
Copy. All right.
Yep.
That makes
sense. Started with a Polaris bulkhead, which is the frame. You'd use a Polaris frame, but you'd build all your own steering components, like all the steering rack and bell cranks and all those components were all custom so that the sled steered exactly the way that you needed it to steer for mountain use. So yeah, that's.
So what did people think when they saw this on the mountain? And I mean, they're knowing you're starting to become this guy that's building these custom sleds.
I mean, most of my friends that were older than me and were becoming lawyers and doctors and stuff in my town thought I was nuts because what they do is just buy the most expensive thing they can buy with a warranty. And I'm this guy with just completely modded crap all the time. Half the time I get to get towed out because I'm experimenting with something that breaks. And that's just the life I lived. I have a few friends that were kind of all in with it too, that rode my stuff, and we all hung out together and rode. But man, I'm telling you, when it came to what we call dangling, we kicked the crap out of everybody.
Did you say dangling?
Dangling, leg dangling.
I was gonna say dangling off the side, side hilling.
Brett Rasmussen, he'll know what that. Every picture you see of Brett is him dangling.
Yeah.
He was the master at it. So yeah, one leg hanging and barely hanging onto the handlebars, going like wildfire up the hill.
That's awesome, man. So this is so when was this sled? When's this picture taken?
1999.
99. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So what's next then? 99. So this is Timbersled is already formed in your mind, or it's legit, this is Timbersled?
Well, I didn't know this was Timbersled here, but I didn't have a name at that time.
Yeah.
It was just Allen building a custom, didn't really have a business, but my goal was to have a business. So I told you that I went logging. I started logging to, I don't remember what year that was. I think it was 97 that I started logging. I was 18 years old, to make more money because I could make $20 an hour back then,
Yeah.
logging. And so I logged for quite almost 10 years,
Wow.
part-time, full-time, and then part-time. I did it part-time when I started Timbersled. I couldn't, Timbersled didn't become a full-time thing for me until like three years after I started it, 3 or 4 years. So I cut timber, cut trees down. I worked on what they call tractor crews, yarder logging, like you've seen Axemen. You ever watch
Yep.
that TV
Yep.
show? All that stuff.
Oh yeah.
All except for the yelling. We didn't ever yell.
What?
Um,
What? Yeah, that's just for TV. What was your favorite part about logging?
Definitely just being in the mountains and the woods all the time, and the even though you're cutting the forest down, it was just such a gratifying thing of being in the
Yeah.
mountains, in nature, and obviously being in the mountains it's always been my favorite thing in life.
Yeah, in
You
Idaho
know,
and Montana, I mean, long history of logging there, man. I mean, that's a huge industry. I growing up, I always saw logging trucks. Shit, I almost ran into a logging truck today. Dirt biking. I mean, it's still very, very prevalent, yeah, in the Northwest, man.
yeah. So I mean, all this plays a role in Timbersled because for one, the guys I worked for, these guys were studs. They were
Yeah,
in shape. Athletic. I mean, they're like state champion wrestlers on top of it. And I'm trying to compete with this, right? And they're older
but
than
but
me,
you're
right?
not a
They're
small guy. Yeah, but you're
yeah,
not a small guy.
they're in their 30s and I'm in my teens,
Yeah,
at the time, and so they basically were animals on snowmobiles. And I built them snowmobile parts and made their snowmobiles work better, and they tree rode, and it was my job to keep up with them. And I learned how to tree ride. I mean, just in the most ruthless fashion you could probably learn how to do something like that in
that's
with
awesome.
you know primitive snowmobiles, which we thought were just absolutely the best thing in the world back then. And tree banging and tree riding is where I came up with all my names
Yep.
for everything. By my bark busters, my mountain tamer, suspension, timber sled as a name, um,
Yeah.
was all stemmed from logging and tree riding snowmobiles and trying to come up with names and terms of things that matched what we did.
So your kind of initiation or sort of like just, getting into the snowmobile world was this drive and desire to, one, have really cool stuff, but two, being able to build stuff for your buddies and go hang with them and ride in the mountains and being able to pretty much go anywhere you want to go, right? I mean, just get after
Pretty
it.
much, yep. If
Yeah.
you can't buy what you want, you have to build it.
Yep.
In an extremely competitive nature at that. It keeps driving you to come up, to show up with a secret. That was a trick. If you could show up with something nobody else had, don't tell anybody, and just
Yeah.
with them all. Oh man, what a feeling that is.
That sounds like, yeah, it sounds like some Idaho loggers right there, man. So
So
this is like early 2000s, and yeah, so get into the whole, you start Timbersled, you're sledding with your buddies in the off season when you guys aren't logging.
there's one rule in my life, and it is having fun. If I'm not having fun, I'm not going to keep doing it. And so the whole point of
Fair
having a
enough,
snowmobile business was to be able to ride snowmobiles all the time and not have to have an excuse for it,
right?
right? Because if you do something too much, people think you're weird. But
That's
when it's your job, they don't question
yeah.
that.
That's why I had to figure out how to do snow bikes full time too. I knew I wasn't going to build snow bikes because that's not my gig. So
Yeah, everybody, you got the dream, man. You got the
yeah,
bug and the dream.
trying, man. So you're like, all right, how can I just snowmobile my life away, right? And just make money.
Well, yeah, that's the goal. But yeah, just motivated kid that never sits still and constantly wants to be better at what he does. And so,
So
a
at
lot of
this
people have
point,
that drive.
and at this point where you, because I know you're not a dirt biker, which is kind of funny. I thought when you told me that, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know that, but you weren't riding like single track dirt biking and doing all that stuff, right?
Just rode dirt bikes when I was young in my teenage years, and then landed on my head a couple times real hard and kind of decided that it was just going to ruin me. And my whole focus was to ride snowmobiles. And so I would work all summer long just to make money to be able to buy a snowmobile, keep having new snowmobiles, and then snowmobile. And one thing with logging is you're laid off a portion of the winter, and we rode snowmobiles every day.
Yeah, so you're busting ass all when everybody's playing in the summertime. You guys are out just working and getting after it.
Yep. They say loggers, they get two moonlight rides and a picnic in the forest every day.
2 moonlight rides and a picnic in the forest.
Yep.
Going in it with the moonlight and going out with the moonlight.
That's right.
Yeah, you're getting after it. So had the Snowbike? I mean, did you know anything about Snowbikes or had heard anything about them?
No, absolutely not. We built snowmobile products for 8, almost 10 years before we ever even thought of a snow bike. So I guess why don't we for well, I guess one thing I guess I can say is, as Timbersled grew, we bought CNC machines and welding machines, and it grew, and we were, I'm going to say we were probably the largest aftermarket suspension manufacturer of mountain snowmobile suspensions probably in the world.
Wow. So you guys were the only ones creating the type of suspension that was like the Mountain Tamer, right? Wasn't that
we weren't the only ones. There were other companies, but ours was the right recipe. It was lightweight. It was affordable, much more affordable than other aftermarket suspensions. There were some really nice suspensions out there, but ours were more affordable. And then they harnessed horsepower, because horsepower sleds were coming on board with nitrous and turbos. And our suspension had the ability to harness that power in a lightweight package. So you shaved, it's 20, 30 pounds off of a snowmobile just by putting a new rear suspension in, and another 10 to 20 pounds putting a front suspension on it. And so we had front suspensions that turned better and were lightweight. We had rear suspensions that harnessed the horsepower and were lightweight and were all affordable.
And this is the whole skid, right? Or just the suspension?
We built them several ways. We built complete suspensions, and we also built kits that you would put into your factory slide rails, and they all bolted up to your factory bolt holes in your snowmobile. You didn't have to go modify your snowmobile to put an aftermarket suspension in. You could have it all, and it just bolts in.
Got it.
Got it. A lot of other products involved in that, but.
So Allen, how many people then, when you're, well, first of all, when do you launch Timbersled? When do you come up with the name and launch it?
At 2002.
Okay, 2002, and it's still just you?
Just me. Yep.
Okay.
My wife, and I was just barely married at that time. So.
Yep.
So it was me and my wife. And she would,
and I know your brother. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, my wife would, help me in everything that she could, from, making invoices to bookkeeping to helping me package parts at night. We're poor though. I mean, she had to work a full-time job and do this. I logged in the summer times. I did what I could on the weekends while I was logging, but I had to, stop logging at a certain time of the year so I could go full time into doing the Timbersled, building the parts.
Yep.
So we did that for a good 3 years.
Just hustling and grinding, and she's helping you out and supporting. And any entrepreneur out there who same with my wife, man. She's been up late packaging stuff, and our wives, man, they're the saints here.
Well, somehow we've created a pretty good life for ourselves.
No complaints, man. So your wife's helping you out. So when do you hire your first person, and who is it?
I'm going to say it was probably around year 4. And so my very first employee was Jim Brooks. Jim still works at Timbersled today. He's
No
one
way,
of
that's awesome.
he's one of the main techs in the shop that builds a lot of, if not most of, the prototype parts at Timbersled.
Wow.
And my second employee ever was my brother Dale. A lot of guys have probably talked to my brother Dale because he answers the phone on the tech line at Timbersled.
Yeah.
He's also a tech and fabricator in the shop, in the development shop.
So Dale's been working with you since, I mean, 2000, what, like 5, 6?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, about that time.
Wow.
So those guys are still both there. Jim and Dale were the main guys on the project of the original, Mountain Horse.
Yeah.
They constructed the thing. I was established enough at that time. I probably had 30 some employees at that time. And that
Wow.
was just on the snowmobile side.
Damn. Hey,
Then we
Alan,
started this.
sorry to interrupt you real quick. It was breaking up a little bit.
I'll just reposition this. How's that?
Are you, well, no, it's like digitized. Like I'm wondering if it was your you guys using the internet there or
I don't
doing
know.
anything.
Maybe we probably have about all the kids and wife on the internet right now.
Yeah, that's probably what's going on. Yeah, no worries. I
Oh,
can
and
still hear
Rush.
you good.
He's on the internet too, probably.
Rush is over there grinding away.
Yeah.
Okay. No worries. I can still hear you pretty good. So we'll keep moving, dude. So, so you got 30 employees, your brother, Jim, and yeah. So tell us about, because let's see, when did Two Moto start? It was about what, 04, 05, something like that.
No, it's later. I think it's 2009, probably 8 or
Well,
9.
I remember Brett talking about, the 2008, the whole kind of not stock market, but the housing crash was kind of what, stopped a few things. So I thought it was before that, like 05, 06.
Yeah, I don't know exactly when they started. It might have been 07, 08, but
Okay.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
positive I seen the Two Moto at the Boise Snow Show, which I think was one of the very first Boise Snow Shows.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I met Brett, because he was the man at the Two Moto booth. And I'm pretty
Yep.
sure that
So
was 08.
yeah. So Brett Blazer, Two Moto down. They were out of Boise, right?
Yeah, Nampa. Well, I
Yep.
don't know where they were out of, but yeah,
Yeah.
Boise.
Down there. Okay. So you see him at a snow show.
Yep, seen him in a snow show. Checked out his stuff. Of course, we were all pretty extreme snowmobilers at that time. And if you can imagine what our snowmobiles like by that point. And my opinion of the snow bike at that time is I thought, wow, that's really cool, but that thing is made all wrong. Those guys have wasted their time. They're not snowmobilers. Brett was a snowmobiler. That's the part
Yeah.
I understand. But they were really
Yeah.
trying to make a track system that resembled a tire. Would be the better way to describe it. It was like a motorcycle suspension with a belt on it, a track resembled a tire. It wasn't designed to float. And I don't know that when they designed that, I think they were more trying to run on the snow and ice, maybe.
Yeah.
It wasn't to ride them in the mountains. They couldn't have been, because they were not mountain machines, even though guys figured out how to ride them in the mountains. And
Yeah.
so I didn't take interest in the two moto really until my friend at the time, well, not at the time, not my friend at the time, uh, Derek Driggs.
Oh yeah.
Derek Driggs bought a snow bike from a guy in our town, another guy that we knew that owned a motorcycle shop, and he started selling them. And so Derek got one, and then he was friends with
So it was
my
more
buddy.
of just a novelty to you. You're like, oh, cool, that's neat, but whatever. Like you didn't pay much
Well,
attention to it.
no, I did pay attention to it because
Oh, okay.
my friend Wade, who is Wade and Ray Peck, these two guys are rock star snowmobilers. I mean, they are the best of the best mountain snowmobilers along
Yeah.
with me, and we all rode together. And so these guys went out and bought these two motos because their friend Derek bought one.
Yeah.
And so they both went and bought brand new motorcycles and put them on brand new motorcycles. And so they went up riding, and my friend Wade, which is the kid I was the closest to, is like, dude, you got to check this out a little bit closer. So I did, and I'm like, there's something to this. We went up riding, I test rode it. I'm like, there's
Yeah.
something to this.
So yeah,
so
what'd you think? What'd you think that first like ride?
Well, my first ride was, man, I can side hill it's like I'm on flat ground, and we're mountain snowmobilers that ride our snowmobiles through the trees, and side hilling is like the most important thing.
Right.
We call dangling.
Yeah, dangling.
So I'm like, there's something to this. So I went and bought a brand new YZ motorcycle. I think it was a 98 motorcycle. This was in 2009. I bought this motorcycle. I'm pretty sure it was 2009.
And this is what was the motorcycle?
I think it was a 98 or 2008 YZ 450, brand spanking new.
Motocross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. YZ 450, carbureted at that time.
Yeah.
I bought a brand new two moto kit from the same guy, the guy that was selling them. And
when had you last ridden a motorcycle?
In the 90s.
Okay.
So long, 10 years probably, 10 years ago or more.
Yeah.
And so I bought one, I set it up, and it was like April at this time. It was like mid to late April. And
end of the season, getting close to the
end of the season, but it was like the perfect time for the two moto because the snow was like super frozen and set up.
Yeah.
And my goodness, we rode those things all over the mountains. Like, holy smokes. That's all we did until the snow was completely gone.
Yeah, because you're not really riding sleds at this time, like, right?
Yeah, we would be, but now my damn friends are riding these motorcycles. So what am I going to do?
You had to keep up,
right? If I'm not having fun, I don't want to do it. So now I'm over snowmobiling. We're going to ride these bikes because this is something new.
Yep.
So sure enough, we rode these bikes, and I got it. I bought a bike, and I bought the two moto, knowing that there's something to this. I didn't know what it was. My desire was to build more snowmobile suspensions. So,
but you knew, like, it piqued your interest and curiosity. Like, there's something to this.
There's something to it. That's right. So that's why I bought one.
What was it specifically
about it.
for you? Like, what was it specifically? Just because you were trying to hang with your buddies?
It was. There's a possibility that these snow bikes are ultimately what we want our snowmobiles to handle like. The ability to side hill and be on the side of a mountain effortlessly.
Yep.
All right. So that's 2009.
Okay.
So let's see here. I may have my dates a little bit wrong. So maybe it was 2000. Yeah, it was 2009. Okay, so that summer, so it was April, snow melts, whatever.
Okay.
May the snow's gone. I drew a picture, a design that I thought was going to be what I wanted. So it was taking what I built for snowmobiles, which was tunnels. We built drive systems. We built suspension components. We did it all.
Mm-hmm.
We already had the parts. We just needed to put them together in a smaller configuration. So we drew up what we thought a snow bike should be, which looked like a snowmobile.
Yeah.
On a motorcycle with a
Do you
narrower
have that
track.
drawing still?
I do somewhere. I don't.
That'd be awesome.
Somewhere I have that drawing.
Okay. Well, we'll have to find it at one point.
It's probably in this drawer down here, actually. The secret drawer, right back here.
That's awesome.
So we took us all summer, all the way through the spring, and so it was probably around Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
First, maybe it was before Christmas. I can't remember.
2009.
Yep. So we get this thing and done, and there is like no snow in town. I mean, none. Like this was the one year that it didn't snow. There's lots of snow up in the mountains, but there was no snow down in the valley, and I couldn't even test it out in a field.
So we'll back up just a little bit. So what's this like walk through? I mean, is this like early mountain horse kind of design look? I mean, is it very different? Like,
no, looks just like the mountain horse you ride. I'll send you a picture of it.
Okay.
I have one. Let's see here. Let me get that picture sent. So I'm going to send you Okay, this is a classic picture here. So this is at Timbersled.
All right. I love it. That's great. So you're jonesing to just freaking go ride this thing, man.
Yep.
I can only imagine.
Here's some details. This is kind of interesting. So my friend Eric Thurling, who is Mountain Horse on the Snow West Snowmobile Forum. He's a moderator of the Snow West Forum.
Yeah.
And his moderator name was Mountain Horse. He's no longer a moderator, but everybody that has rode snowmobiles knows who Mountain Horse on the Snow West Forum is.
Yeah.
Some love him and some hate him.
It's usually how it goes.
This
picture,
look at this
thing, man.
Eric, my friend Eric Thurling, Mountain Horse, came to visit me. The first time he's ever come to visit me. He and I were friends, internet friends at the time. Came to visit me and just happened to come. He's a snowmobiler. That's him on the right-hand side.
It's Mountain Horse?
Yeah, that's Mountain Horse.
What's his name again? Eric, you said?
Eric Thurling.
Got it.
He and I are still friends and still stay in communication. He's a custom boat builder. He
awesome.
Restores mahogany boats.
Oh, wow.
Wooden mahogany boats. So anyway, he's up visiting me, not necessarily because of the snow bike, just because it was his opportunity to come visit me for the first time. So he brought up his newly purchased snowmobile, and I'm like, hey, dude, sorry, but we're not going snowmobiling. Oh, let me back up a little bit. So we didn't have any snow, and I'm like, I have to test this thing somehow. So you see the wheel on the front of it? We built that wheel.
Oh, yeah.
To test this thing out in the parking lot.
Right here?
Yeah, that wheel. Yeah.
Oh, this is the old 6-inch ski here, too.
Yep, there it is. So we take it out in the parking lot, and I'm going to, like, pop the clutch on the pavement to see if the whole thing just blows to pieces. And so we take it out in the parking lot for the very first time, and nobody's ever done anything like this. So we take it out in the parking lot, and I'm like, I popped the clutch like 100 times, and I'm like, man, there's just nothing going on with this thing. It's holding up just fine. So I'm like, okay.
Wait, like you're moving, you're popping the clutch.
Yeah, I'm out in the paved parking lot. Yeah, the pavement, popping the clutch, trying to get something to snap on it.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to drive it around the parking lot. So I did that. So anyway, next day, I'm like, okay, we're going out to the snow. I don't want anybody around. It's an off day. Eric Thurling goes with me. He's on his new snowmobile. So I get in the parking lot, same thing. I go drive around the parking lot in the snow this time, and I'm like, man, it's not too bad. It's pretty good actually. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think we can take it up the trail. So I start heading up the trail. This is up Trussell Creek up out of Sandpoint, my favorite riding zone. And I get up to the hill, and I keep stopping and checking, thinking there's going to be something horribly wrong with this thing. I'm going to have to turn around and go back. So we got our tow ropes. We're all set up to tow this thing home.
You're just on the trail right now, right?
We're just on the trail. Haven't even got all the way up there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I think it's good. Eric's like, well, I'll tell you what, let's take it up the hill. We're just critiquing the heck out of it. We don't want to ruin it, right? Because it's new and everything on it's very hand built.
Yeah.
Except for the rear suspension. If you look at the rear suspension, it's like production, because that's what we do.
That was that the snowmobile for a snowmobile?
Yeah, it was all basically our Mountain Tamer rear suspension system for a snowmobile that we built and sold for snowmobiles. And
fitted in your Snowbike.
Yeah, and I built a short 121 set of rails and adapted the Yamaha sized suspension arms into it. So I'm finally to the hill, Kyle. This is a moment I'll never forget. Okay, we've rode two motos. We ride custom snowmobiles. I mean, we got it all going on. We know what we're doing. I flip and hit the hill on this thing. At first, I'm going to hit an old snowmobile track, and I try to go up the hill like I'm on a snowmobile. And I'm like, man, it's going pretty good, but it's running out of power pretty fast. I throw that thing into a side hill, Kyle, and I side hilled that thing for like 3 miles. And it would not get stuck. Like the 2-moto, the second you slow down, you're stuck instantly.
Yeah.
And this thing is clawing for everything it's worth. Like, it will not get stuck. And I'm like, I can't even begin to tell you what my feelings were.
I can only imagine.
I was almost in tears. My buddy Eric, who's an established snowmobiler, is nowhere to be seen. I'm riding
the dust.
I'm riding on mountains he's never even heard of. So I'm with my friend Eric, and I come back and I'm like, Eric, this thing will not stop. I can't even begin to tell you where I just took this. You won't even believe me if I told you. And I was side hilling through the trees in the steepest, exactly what we do today.
Yeah.
On Snowbikes, which is the bug that everybody gets. And 100%. All that awkwardness went away, that ski, everything. And I'm like, so I get back to him. We have this big conversation. I'm like, okay, I need to check this out, right? I just rode it pretty hard.
Your wheels got to be turning, man. Yeah, you got to be just like,
I told Eric,
shit.
I said, we just stumbled across the next multi-million-dollar product line for our company. That's when it hit me, is when I knew I had a product that could really impress people. Damn. So I'm like, I check it out. There's nothing wrong with it. The chains, I put like really good DID chain and stuff on it. I'm like, the chains didn't even stretch. And I'm expecting this thing, the frame to be bent and all these problems, because we never built a frame like this. It's a lot hanging back there. Nothing wrong with the bike. The bike's doing really good.
This is a stock. This is stock bike. There's no mods or anything.
No, we didn't mod them back then. They worked fine.
Yeah.
As long as the airbox wasn't full of snow. We didn't even know that was a problem. So I rode it for like a couple more hours before we took it home, and I'm just side hilling all over the place with a huge grin on my face, man, and just in complete disbelief of what we just created. We just created a monster.
Did you get any pictures or anything of that day?
No,
riding?
No, absolutely did not. Dumbest thing I ever did.
Just shredding. What about the ski? How did that do?
The ski handles great. You pick a 6-inch ski, put it on a snow bike, and it will side hill and grip the hill as good as these new skis do. It just doesn't have a ton of flotation when you're going straight down the hill. Yeah. And honestly, as long as the snow's soft on the trail, they're not even that bad on the trail.
Damn, dude.
But everybody needs to put one of these on and find out what it's like. And
I gotta get one now. I want to try it.
I need to do a self check myself. So
That's
okay,
awesome, man. So you guys get done and you're just cloud nine, man.
Okay, so here's what happens. I says, Eric, I had an idea, and I says, dude, I want to name this thing after you because this describes you.
That's awesome.
So we named it the Mountain Horse with his permission.
That's bad. So he was already Mountain Horse on Snow West.
He's been Mountain Horse for 10 years prior.
Oh, wow.
Everybody knows him as Mountain Horse. And
That's
so
awesome.
I'm like, this thing's Mountain Horse. I got on the phone. I talked to my brother. I don't know if we text message. I can't remember when we started text messaging.
Yeah. 09, it was texted. Yeah.
So I text messaged my brothers and Jimmy, or I called them. I can't remember. I think I called them, and I gave them they were just so excited because everybody wanted to hear how it did. Right? This was our summer-long project to build this machine right here. And my brother Kyle goes home, tells his wife. Well, his wife is an artist.
Dale, right? I was like,
this is my brother Kyle. Kyle. So Kyle's in the background right there. That's Kyle.
Oh,
he's my younger brother.
Got it.
Smartest dude you've ever met. He's way smarter than me. And
so he helped you out getting this thing going.
Well, no, I called him and told him the whole story about my day, and he goes home, tells his wife. His wife draws a picture of the original Mountain Horse logo, the Timbersled Mountain Horse with the whole horse that snorted fire out its nose.
Yeah.
So his wife drew that logo. So I'm gonna send you.
I gotta get that logo. I was just thinking we gotta make a note to get that actual logo, man.
Well, I'll be able to show it here in a minute. I'm gonna send you one more picture of us riding this machine. And so there's another story I have to tell you, and it's my second day of riding this thing. So I'm gonna send you this picture because this is actually on the snow with it. This picture is at Dan Adams' shop.
Dan Adams, yeah, Next Level Riding Clinic, right?
Yep. This was a couple weeks after.
I'm pulling up the Timbersled logo. I think I can probably find it.
It's sending. This doesn't have the logo.
Original. I remember seeing that thing. Original Timbersled logo. Here we go. Oh, here it is. I got it pulled up. Ha! You know what's funny? That's pretty cool, actually. I gotta show you this. All right. I'm gonna share my screen here. Okay. The funny thing was I typed in original Timbersled logo. This is what pops up, and there's my logo. That's kind of funny. Here it is. Boom. Look at that.
Yeah, that's it.
Snowbike system. Look at that. That's awesome.
So I got to tell you about day 2, because day 2 was better than day 1.
Yeah, so you tell your brother, are you like, all right, guys, you got to come ride this. This thing's amazing.
All right, so this first day with Eric, it was Friday. It was a Friday, and now it's Saturday. I went home. I checked the whole thing out. I critiqued the whole kit from head to toe. Everything was good on it. I'm ready to go for the next day. And I tell my buddy Wade, I says, I want to go snowbiking with you guys. And now, granted, it's like winter time, right? Winter's just getting going big time. So it's probably, maybe it's January. I can't remember, before or after Christmas. So tell my buddy Wade, I want to go snowbiking with you guys.
Why they ride sleds?
They ride sleds, but we're going snowbiking.
Yeah.
Okay. They've been into these snow bikes. They're still trying to ride these snow bikes, even in the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
And so my friend Ray Peck, Wade Burnett, and Derek Driggs. I haven't met Derek Driggs yet. Derek Driggs becomes my best friend. And he's in all my early videos are all Derek Driggs.
Is there a Phil? isn't there another Driggs that
No,
is it
that's
Timbersled
Driggers.
or? Oh,
Philip
Driggers.
Driggers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Different guy. Got it.
Different guy. I got a long history with him too, all the way back to my childhood. We'll get into that another time. Anyway, I go riding day 2. My buddy, my not buddy at the time, Derek, finds out that this guy is coming, and he built his own snow bike kit. And he's like,
wait, Derek did?
No, my buddy Wade tells Derek that this guy is
it.
going to come riding today, and he built his own snow bike kit. And my buddy Derek tells Wade, I'm not sure I want to go. I don't want to deal with it. He's like hardcore motocrosser. Like he goes snowbike. Okay. He goes snowbiking and he's wearing all motocross gear, right? He's that guy, just extreme as you can get. And he's like almost doesn't go because this guy, which is me, is going to go with him, and he built his own snow bike kit.
Well, you thought it was stupid or what? Did he just think it was going to be a shit show? Or?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a shit show. So we get up the hill and we head up the trail, and I'm real timid, right? Because these guys are like, bah, bah, everywhere they go, blasting off the banks, ripping the corners, and I'm on my home-built, so they thought, machine. And so I'm following along, and they get up, they head up the road, and everybody's hitting the cut bank. I'm just in the back still. And we finally get up to where they're just going to cut off the trail, and we're headed up the mountain. Now, this is a mountain that I ride snowmobiles on. I know this sucker inside and out. It's a challenging mountain. One of my best riding zones, honestly, for a snowmobile. But it's tree riding all the way to the top of the ridge. And there's a couple ridges you have to go over before you go up the main big ridge, and it's all trees.
Yeah, no beginners on this one. No beginners.
No beginners. Yeah. And so a lot of the locals ride this area on their snowmobiles. So we get up there, and there's a couple ways to get into this one basin up there, and I can hear the snowmobiles up there. I can tell the locals are up there riding, all my lawyer and doctor friends that are all older than me that have all the new equipment all the time. And so I'm like, okay, great. So we go down. They're going to go up a different spot, no tracks. We go down the hill, down, cross the creek, and I'm still in the back thinking, okay, I'm just going to hold back here and wait and see what happens. I don't want to break anything. We get down there, we cross the hill, they head up the hill, and they go like 200 feet, and they're just stuck. All of them. They're all stuck. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't know if I can make that. I'm like pretty wobbly on this thing. I got one day on it, right? I go down, cross the creek, start going up the hill, and I passed them. I think I was in third gear. And
You're wheeling up past them.
I just wheelied past them, and I could see all their looks right through their helmets, like deer in the headlight looks like, what in the heck just happened?
Yeah.
And I go, 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 and I go. I don't ever stop. I crest up to the top, and I'm like, shut my machine off, and you can't hear these guys. They're nowhere. I don't know if they got out. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna rub this in absolutely as much as possible.
You're on top of the world.
Point, I'm at top. Well, I'm not all the way to the top yet. So I got this one big basin. I have to go all the way around this thing. And I knew I couldn't climb straight up like I do on my snowmobile. So I'm going to take the long way around. I'm going to side hill through the trees, around the basin, all the way, and I'm going to pop up on top. Well, okay, these snowmobilers are up there somewhere. I can hear them. I'm like, okay, I'm going to side hill around, and I'm going to dummy all of these guys. And I could hear them, brah, brah, all their loud snowmobiles, loud pipes on them. And you hear, wah, and you can hear them get stuck and all this. They're sawing on the hill trying to get to the top ridge. And I side hill along all the way around. It's probably 2 miles, 3 miles around this whole big full-size basin. And I'm side hill along. I stop a couple times so I can listen to where people are at, because I'm like getting cocky at this point, right? I got some confidence. And so I'm like, okay, they're right there. That's our normal spot that we always go up. It's hard. You have to bang at it to get all the way out. And I'm up on the hill somewhere in the trees, and I know they can hear me coming.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it has to be John Finney and Clay Sakamano. These are the top snowmobilers of our town. Like, nobody goes up here except for these guys and their friends and family. all are just great snowmobilers. So sure enough, I coming around and I'm getting to a spot where I think I'm pretty close to where that one spot is that everybody climbs up. And sure enough, I see one snowmobile and it's buried. And I see two snowmobiles and it's buried. And I see a third snowmobile and it's Clay Sakamano with his skis pointing straight up in the air about 20 feet from the top of the hill. And I side hill right above him and plunk my bike up on top of that ridge. And nobody has crested this hill, and they are looking at me like, "You son of a bitch! What is that? Is that an alien?" Like, I had my helmet on. I didn't know who it was. They're like, "Was that an alien?"
Yeah.
And so I turn around and I come straight down the hill right at them. Clay is stuck. John Finney is stuck, and I pulled my helmet off, and they were like, "Alan, what in the heck are you riding?" Every one of those guys rides snow bikes now.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And they've owned about every generation we've ever built. They ride snowmobiles too. They've never quit snowmobiling, but they also ride snow bikes.
So they literally saw you. I mean, like, this is your first real ride, like getting out and getting after it. And you come blazing down at the top of the ridge, right? I mean, you're all the way at the top.
Yeah, they're only 20 feet from the top, right? It was steep as a cow's face, and they're stuck trying to climb this hill because it's a real narrow section. It's hard to turn out. Yeah, the most memorable moment of my life, to be honest with you.
So what did they say? I mean, what happened after that? What was the conversation, man?
Well, I don't know that I stood around and talked. They were just at disbelief of what just happened and like wanted to see what I had. And I'm like, kind of showed them, I guess, but I'm like on a ride, right? And so I just left all my friends way back somewhere.
They don't even know where your friends don't even know where you are at this point.
Dude, I'm riding on mountains they've never even heard of.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So again, I can't remember exactly what was said conversation wise, but they checked it out and they're like, "Oh my God, that is so cool. I can't believe it. Rah, rah, rah. When are you going to make them?" And all this stuff. And so finally I head back and I'm going to go find my three buds on their two motos, and they never made it off the hill that they were on. They were still trying to get up to the very, the first knoll. And Derek was just like, "Dude, he's just speechless, but I want one. I want one.
Get me one of those."
Yeah. Best buds ever since.
Oh, dude. So your ride with these guys, how long were you gone, and what were they thinking? Were they like, "Well, Alan disappeared"? I mean, like,
I was probably gone for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Was all.
And that taste right there, the freedom and the exploration and the ease of riding, was it just instantly you're like, "Dude, this is the thing. Like, this is it."
Well, I mean, you're on a machine that side hills across the steepest of faces, and it feels like you're on flat ground. It's got pretty precision handling. Ski and everything was pretty precision. There's no ski washing or weird stuff going on there. It rode pretty good. It had a solid strut at the time. The original design had basically a TSS in it. But we couldn't make it fit and clear the motorcycle quite yet. So we ended up just putting a solid strut in it, but it rode really good. The suspension was good. It was every bit as good as the snowmobile suspensions that we were building. Used all the same shocks and everything. Of course, I didn't have it tuned right? It was tuned for a big, heavy snowmobile.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a little bit stiff, but yeah, just super comfortable. And my thought in my head was this. Of course, I'm just so excited, right? Because I'm always looking for the next business opportunity. But I'm like, this thing handles pretty much how we've been trying to make our snowmobiles handle all these years. And this thing is just in a 300-pound package.
Yeah, out of the gate. I mean, not first, test and the thing's doing everything you want it to do.
Yeah. So I didn't think that it was really that underpowered. Of course you always want more power, but it had pretty adequate power.
Yeah. So what was so you get up there, you get back to your buddies, now what? I mean, at this point, they're trying to ride the 2-moto. It's not quite working.
They're like, we're
dude,
frickin' done. We're frickin' done doing this until you make another one of these things for us.
like go back and let's start now.
Like
and start
there was
these.
no trying to figure these 2-motos out. It was just done at that.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they rode them ever again.
Yeah.
They're just relics at that point.
Yeah.
So now it was our job to build more.
So your buddies obviously want them. Your brother, I mean, everybody your guys are talking to them. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like game on.
Yeah, well, it's game on at Timbersled because
that's what
we're
like,
we have to have this available next winter.
Mm-hmm.
This is winter 2009, 2010 winter.
Yeah, 10. Yeah.
Yep.
So
we're
real quick,
just
Allen,
going in 2010.
Before you get into this, and just because I got the picture pulled up, talk us through. I remember watching an old video of yours. It was a YouTube video. This was years ago. Talk us through this Mountain Tamer suspension, because this is not on any Snowbike kit now. What is the concept here? What is the big deal here with this?
Yeah, so vertical shocks. So they'll just like the Arrow and Riot is today. Those suspensions have always had a really good ride quality, and they've always had really good traction. And so what's unique about this suspension is you see that rear arm, rear suspension
that's
arm?
What I'm talking about. Yep.
So instead of having a scissor arm, it has what we call a slide mechanism. This is another one of my aha moments in history, is how to build the correct suspension arm. And so the advantage of this suspension arm is it had what we call suspension coupling, and that coupling amount was adjustable. So what happens with coupling is when you say you wheelie a snowmobile, it puts all the power to the back suspension arm. It squats, and then when it hits the bottoms the slide mechanism out, it then pulls the front arm up mechanically. And that keeps the suspension more level in the snowmobile. And it puts more track on the ground. And it keeps the snowmobile from wheeling out of control.
Yeah, so it just doesn't go end over end.
Yeah, it puts the power to the ground. It puts traction to the ground. That is the whole point of it. And it's done in a very lightweight package. So that's what this is. This is the original Mountain Horses had this suspension, and you could tune the amount of coupling.
Were you the one that came out with this? Like, had anybody else come out with this design?
No, there's been other designs like this, but they're all extremely heavy. So the very first company that came out with a coupling suspension was the M10 snowmobile suspension, which was an aftermarket suspension. Very heavy.
Arctic Cat, the M10.
No, right? No, M10's an aftermarket thing.
Oh, got it.
And then various snowmobiles had it, including Polaris snowmobiles had it, and they still use it today in snowcross because it's a way to make the suspension extra stiff. Make a really bulletproof suspension. But we used it for controlling horsepower and traction. Okay. So we did it a bit differently.
And so your original kit, you put it on there, and then what happened to it? Why did it go away?
The Mountain Tamer?
Yeah, this specific, the arms there.
It went away on Snowbikes because it was a completely unnecessary tool because we only have 40, 50 horsepower.
Okay.
And so the suspension was like maybe way overkill for what its use was.
Right. So, got it. Yeah. Snowbikes weren't flipping end over end at the
we weren't utilizing the coupling portion of the suspension. We were basically leaving them uncoupled, which was the adjustment that was made in the rear of the suspension arm.
Okay.
And we've had a couple different versions of that. So at the time, we made really fancy versions of it for snowmobiles and a simpler version of it for the Snowbike.
Got it. Yeah, I remember that was the first one I saw. It was like a 2012, and I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Well, so you could take a new Arrow today and put a similar suspension arm in it with all of its shock mounting and basically create the exact mountain tamer that was used in the snowmobiles. That is still a very popular, very good suspension, and it puts the power to the ground. It
Got
really
it.
climbs.
Okay.
So
So
that
2009 going into, thanks for explaining that. Yeah, I'm sure other people had been wondering that. That was satisfied my curiosity there, and makes sense why it's no longer, being used. So 2009, 2010 winter, you get the first ride, your buddies want him. You guys come back to the shop. Like, now what happens, man?
Okay, so we're in full engineering mode. We have some stuff drawn, but mostly this was just all hand built. So we reverse engineered this kit on SolidWorks because that's what we use. And the next picture I just sent you in your email is
Okay.
we built 2 of these. These are all machine made, CNC, laser cut, pre-production mountain horse kits. It took us probably
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
took us so January, February, March. We probably had these going in late March. No, it was late March? No, we had sooner than that. No, it was probably March. It's probably February.
Of
Probably February.
2010.
Yeah. A couple months,
Okay.
2 months later. 2 months later, we had this blue machine built, 2 of these. We had a black one and a blue one. It's the same motorcycle.
So, Alan, is this where your love of, like, why Yamaha? Why did you decide to choose it? Because I know you're still you like Yamaha. What was the whole?
I completely don't care. It's just
Oh,
what was
okay. Is
available.
this what you found? Okay, I got you.
So I had 2 bikes. I had a 98 YZ that I bought brand new from my local dealer, and I had a 99 that I bought from Troy Johnson at Lincoln County Customs in Alpine, Wyoming, which was a shop right next to Dan Adams' shop.
Yeah.
And Troy also aided in my writing of the very first prototype. He's a very experienced dirt biker, snowmobiler. I don't know if you know who he is.
Troy who?
Troy Johnson.
He's not the guy in Kalispell, right?
No, he's in Alpine, Wyoming,
okay.
and he owns a business
Okay.
called Lincoln County Customs, and he is a legend of the snowmobile industry.
Got it.
A friend of mine, because I went down and rode with Dan Adams quite a bit every year.
Yeah.
Because he and I were friends, and he used my product, my snowmobile product.
Right.
So that picture I sent of me sitting in a parking lot with the hand built prototype, that was at Dan Adams' shop. But I went riding that day with Dan and Troy Johnson.
So this is you.
That's me, yeah.
And that was the prototype kit that you showed us.
Yep, yeah, it's the same one.
Nice.
So
what did they think for the first time?
Well, I mean, Troy, who's a dirt biker, absolutely in love with it. I mean, he's like, dude, you've nailed it. He's a snowmobiler and builds snowmobiles and got a big business around doing snowmobiles. But yeah, I mean, he's like, you nailed it. So he had a YZ, a used one. I bought that from him, took it home on that trip.
Got
so
it.
I had two YZs that were basically matching at the time. So back to that picture with the blue kit on it.
Yeah.
That blue kit is this bike right here, same motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the other one, which I don't have a picture of that one. And I had the graphics built and kind of dolled it all up because I was going to use these as my marketing machines as well.
Yeah, that was your initial, like, your showboat kit right here, man.
This is pulling all the stops out and building a prototype. Like that chain cover is a full CNC machined cover that's made out of a solid block of aluminum. We didn't weld them and fabricate them. We just built it out of a block of aluminum. And this is a nice unit here. This is nice.
Looks so. Like it. Do you have this still?
No, I don't. It's in Canada somewhere.
Oh man.
I located it at one time, but anyway, I'd love to have this unit. The prototype got taken down and never put back together. The hand built. prototype.
And you don't have that, huh?
No, it got pulled down and taken apart for engineering, and maybe some of the parts got used on one of these machines, like maybe the suspension parts, and so it kind of got dissected.
Yeah.
But yeah, never went back together. I didn't make that mistake on the mountaintop stuff. I have the hand built prototype. It's fully intact. We can put it on and go ride it today.
Yeah.
It's ready to go.
Have that forever.
Well, it's going on this motorcycle right here. When this motorcycle is tired, which it's almost tired, it's going to get put on that motorcycle.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so we had two of these.
So this is 2010, and what month?
Probably I think I'm going to say around February.
Okay. So yeah, this is like, I mean, you look at this, you're like, damn, that looks badass. I want one.
Yeah. So what I did with these machines is I rode the crap out of them. I started, what did we do? I think we marketed it in March I think we did. We marketed it at the Jackson Hole Hillclimb. I had it in my booth.
You took it to the Hillclimb.
I had all my snowmobile stuff there, but I took the bike, and it struck up a ton of interest just by going to that one event. So
I imagine so, man.
I had a booth there, right? I had a booth there every year, so people knew who I was there. A lot of snowmobile customers, but from there I started basically like you're doing. I was booking demo rides every single day. Like I never rode so much in my life. I had two of these, so I had to ride one, and I took one other person.
Oh, this is back home. You're talking about back in Sandpoint.
Back in 2010, before we started building them. They had that much interest.
Showing people what they're all about.
Well, they just were reaching out to me, and I couldn't do anything besides say, "I'll take you riding." So, I mean, I had guys that were just flying in from who knows where, some of my very first customers. So, but what was going on at the shop, short of keeping up with snowmobile products, but it's a slow time of the year, we built 5 pre-production kits. 5 pre-production kits that are separate from these. And so from there, we refined all of our manufacturing processes with those kits. Now we rode these, we broke them, and we would fix them and find all the weak points in it and such. And so we broke them plenty. There's no doubt about that. You never know what's too heavy or too light, because you're experimenting. But the design was there. It was good. So we built 5 pre-production prototypes. Timbersled these were the first serial numbered kits, these 5 kits. Mm-hmm. They were all sold to my friends. So Wade, Derek, Ray Peck, Clay Sakamano, the guy that I climbed to the top of the hill first, all got these 5 units. And so we ended up buying back serial number 1, which I think it was Clay Sakamano had serial number 1. And that unit is displayed at Timbersled headquarters.
That's awesome.
So, and we got those done right before the snow melt. So everybody kind of got to ride them.
Yeah.
And at that point,
they got a little taste of it.
Yeah, a little taste of it. So, and those were used as marketing and a lot of just different things that we needed out of them.
So you didn't have a dealer network at that point. You guys are just doing
I had
this
a
on
dealer
your own.
network because I was a massive snowmobile part manufacturer.
Right. But I mean for your Snowbike yet. Like you hadn't started a dealer network yet? Okay. Yeah.
No, we sold a lot direct.
Were some people just like, this is stupid. This is a fad. It's not going to catch on. Like, nah. Or was everybody like,
well, there was a lot of two-moto customers out there that were really soured or basically bought two motos, really liked them, but would never buy another one because of their shortcomings. So definitely two moto has inspired me and everybody else in this industry at that time.
Yeah.
So the so we went directly into manufacturing that summer. We built.
So did you guys get pre-orders up to that point? Or, I mean, are you guys like taking orders and like we're gonna go big?
Yep, that's the plan, because I was doing demo rides with these units right here, and those guys were going home and it was 100% sell rate, 100%,
of course,
every single time, and so and then they would go home and tell their friends that this thing's legit, and that's what got the ball rolling, So out of every demo ride I did, I probably sold 10 Snowbike kits.
Yeah, everybody's selling them to their friends. So what was that first, like, snow check? What was that like going into summer?
Well, we sold, so we were going to build 100 units. Now, granted, this was back then when you could make stuff. Today, it's way harder, right? You can't get nothing. So we built 100. We pre-sold 100 units that summer. That snow check.
Probably sold very easily.
Sold all 100 of them. And so we went into manufacturing. We built them. And can you believe this? We built all 100 of them, and we're like, let's build more.
Yeah.
So we built 50 more that year. We're still in 2010.
Yeah.
This is model year 2011
That's
Mountain
awesome.
Horse Snowbike kit. And we're like, let's build 50 more. And sure enough, we get 50 more sets of shocks and 50 more tracks. And I couldn't build 50 more 2 years from now. They wouldn't let me. That's how bad it is. Like these parts that we're buying, some of them are 2-year lead time.
Holy crap.
I know how many kits I'm building 2 years from now, and I'm not going to be able to build an ounce more. So I just either take a big fat risk, which is what I'm going to do. But that's the world we live in today.
Yeah.
And somehow we built this thing, sold it for $4,500, made money on it, gave a 20% discount to the dealers that were selling them, and still made money on them. I have no idea how that happened. Because now
right?
it costs about $1,000 more than that to build one.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. Only 12 years later.
Yeah. And we had time to build 50 more. Like, what?
Yeah.
So
not
and
even
then from
feasible now.
Yeah. So from there, we doubled production every single year until the company sold to Polaris.
Yeah. Well, hold on. We can't jump that far ahead yet. So 2010, you guys sell your 2011 model. It's the Mountain Horse, and it's a 137. What was the original one?
No, 120.
120.
Or no, 121. Yeah, we're two and a half inch pitch.
What was the deal with the 121?
Well, so the tracks we run today are a 286 pitch. They're a 120. These are 2.52 pitch tracks that are a 121.
And these were obviously designed for snowmobiles, and then you guys cut them.
Yeah, the first year tracks were cut on a machine that we built called the Track Hacker. We had a machine that we built in the shop that was called the Track Hacker.
Just for cutting tracks.
Oh yeah, they still have the track. They still have the Track Hacker at Timbersled, and believe me,
it's awesome.
It'll cut up to like a 156 track or a 160 long track.
Wow, dude. So, and then what's the deal? I know like your first tracks, and I know a snowmobile, this wasn't a snowbike thing, but what's the deal with the fingers? Because I know those have kind of all gone away too now.
Fingers?
Yeah,
you mean the little
fingers on the on the track.
Oh, that was a Camoplast at the time. Camoplast design. So it was a Challenger track design that they've built from the mid '90s, and we're still making.
Mm-hmm. So what was the point of that?
I don't really know. Traction, I guess. I don't. Grand idea. I don't know. A way to waste a certain amount of paddle.
Yeah. So 2011. So you guys you're all in. You make 150 kits. You sell them all. This is 2011. You're going in 2011, 2012. Where would you say
No,
too
no,
that was the
you're still in the 2010, 2011 season.
right? Sorry, 2010, 2011 season. You sell 150. Where was the bulk of your guys' customer base? Was it all Northwest or just
Oh,
everywhere?
yeah, northern Montana, your area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was northern Idaho, Washington, Canada, Brock Hoyer, Regan Sieg, all that stuff.
Yeah, talk about that. Those guys, because I remember I was actually reading an old interview from Regan Sieg who saw, so Brock had one. So Brock had like one of your first kits, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't know who he was at that time. He just bought one. I don't know if
Yeah.
he bought it through one of our dealers, um, or he bought it direct. I can't remember. But yeah,
Yeah.
he bought one, and then he got Regan into it.
Yeah.
So
So so they've been in it, I mean, pretty much since the first kit came out, the production kit.
yeah, and I didn't know who those guys were. They were just basically getting into the sport themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't meet those guys until the following year in Jackson Hole. They both came, and I think they wanted
As
to come meet
snowmobilers.
me. No, they came as snowbikers,
Oh, got it.
not to climb the hill, but just to come meet me and figure out what the hell's going on here.
Yeah, what are you doing down in
Right?
Idaho,
Because
man?
they both seen some type of a career in doing this.
Yeah. So walk us into the next season then.
So the next season was just full of manufacturing and throttle down at Timbersled and figuring out how to produce more parts, because we're still producing thousands of snowmobile parts.
Yeah.
And now we threw this giant product line into the mix. So it meant more CNC machines. It
Yeah.
meant more people, more building, more everything.
Damn.
And it quickly consumed our snowmobile business. And we continued to build the snowmobile stuff for quite a long time. And we were still supporting it, not building and selling new product, but we're still supporting it when we sold to Polaris, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it quickly consumed us, and we had to make a decision: are we a snowmobile part manufacturer, or are we now a snowbike part manufacturer? Because it's clear that we have to figure out how to produce these snowbikes, and we had to produce
Yep.
them in numbers that would fill the demand in the industry. And my take on any business, or my business in general, was if I can't be responsible enough to fill the void and to do a good job, it just gives an opportunity for competitors to come in. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have to be responsible with my own industry so that my competitors don't come in. I can't leave the door open.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fill the demand or let the competitors in. And honestly, we beat the competitors out for 5 years. I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
was random snowbike kits that came and gone in that time, and they could never gain any traction because
Yeah.
I feel like we were doing such a great job. And Tumoto and 80 Bovine that built the Explorer kit, I mean, they were all but out of business in the first year because they weren't
Mm-hmm.
willing to change their design, and they thought they had it all figured out, and it just, I mean, honestly, it's kind of sunk them. Because
So yeah, so I mean 2011, I mean, do you have now dealers that are like, "Hey, we'd like to carry these kits. We'd like to sell them and offer them to our
oh yeah,
customer base."
yeah, they're
Yeah.
coming out of everywhere, coming from
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious because I know Penco over here, they've been involved, at least from my understanding, from the beginning. And didn't you guys have one of your early, was it a sales guy or something that was over here in Kalispell too?
Well, Randy Siemens was a
Randy, that's
dealer of
it.
mine, so he had a small shop, and he built a lot of custom snowmobile stuff, turbos and fast mountain snowmobiles. So he sold my snowmobile product line, and he was one of the
Got it.
first to start selling my snowbike line. And so he then started introducing it to guys like Penco and Fast Toys, um, and they wanted to pick the product line up. Well, it kind of turned into, he was my very first rep, and I learned that having a rep was probably the answer, because the rep could have the relationship with the dealer. I couldn't physically have a relationship. I mean, at the time for snowmobiles, I had like 200 dealers selling my part. I can't even communicate with that many people. So your time that you could spend with somebody was limited. So I figured out early on that the rep thing was super important. So Randy became a rep, and so he started setting up key dealers that he knew about, because he's born and raised there, throughout Montana. And Montana grew to be my biggest state by far because of him.
That's awesome, man. So right out of the gate, like, I mean, this area was like ground zero for your first kind of sales rep and dealer network.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Because it was getting managed professionally.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we have to now duplicate this with all our dealers. So
everywhere.
Yeah. So more reps, which they got paid a percentage, and then they would manage the account 100%.
Yeah. So real quick, let's touch on this, and I'm going to interview Rush separately, because I know he's got a story as well, and I wanted you guys both to be able to tell your story. So was that when Rush started, like riding snow bikes? Like, was that 2012, 13?
Yeah. Yep. I would say it was probably the second
early
year. Yeah.
Okay. So going in, so you have this initial sales rep, you're starting to establish a dealer network. So walk us into the next season, 2011-12.
So 2011-12, we launched a 137 kit. So the year 2, we launched the 137, and we also launched the SX kit.
Mm-hmm.
We had three models now. And talk about on the gas. So we got into racing. Man. We got into racing because Ron Dillon puts on the McCall race at the Winter Carnival.
Yep.
And we went there, and I don't think.
Wait, he put on a snowbike race? Like, this was a snowbike race?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and he still does it today.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it was a big deal then too. He was drawing a pretty big crowd, but it was all 2 motos. And even in our first year, I don't think we won, because we didn't really go with a serious, manner to us. But we all went and raced with our gas cans and bags still on the back of our kit, because we were mountain riding the day before, and it's race day now. And like, wait a minute, you can't race with that gas can on there. Well, I emptied it. Yeah,
that's great.
So anyway, but the next year, we showed up with our SX kit, which had in-frame suspension, same rear skid, narrower track for racing. It was a 10.5-inch wide track.
Find that one.
And we slaughtered them. They still had some fast guys on 2 motos, but we slaughtered them.
Really?
And Derek got tagged with the name fastest man on a snow bike.
Derek did,
yeah. And so he reigned for about 4 or 5 years as fastest man alive on a snow bike, until Brock Hoyer came along and just kicked his ass.
Right. Yeah, Brock's an animal.
Well, he was just so much smaller than Derek, right? And younger.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Where is it here? SX? What? SX?
Yep, SX. Timbersled SX 120.
Oh, maybe type in the 120. Yeah, and I've seen this kit around.
Yeah, they're still around. They're still good kits. We rode them a lot in the mountains too, because we liked how nimble they were.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the added suspension in the frame, and it was just like limitless.
What do you mean the added suspension in the frame? You're talking about up here, like kind of
your
like
it had like
your shock is now.
Yeah, kind of. It's like a TSS type suspension. So it had a big linkage driven shock that was You had
Got
to
it.
gut the airbox out of them and do some mods to put them on.
Got it. Got it. Oh, that's a newer one. So you guys create this because you want to be what recognized. You guys want people knowing who you are, seeing you guys out there on the race scene.
We seen the potential in racing and the fact that
Yeah.
that could be the one thing that really grows the sport because people get to see it, right, as spectators.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we had to build 50 of them, so that's a pretty new one too.
Wow.
That's
50.
not that's
Damn.
So we had to build 50 of them, and we put those up for sale. And the first day we put them up for sale, which was during a snow check period,
Mm-hmm.
we sold all of them in like 2.5 hours.
Damn. 50 race kits.
50 race kits.
Wow.
Yep.
That's impressive.
Well, they weren't all getting sold for racing. People were buying them because they
Yeah.
were
Okay.
small and nimble.
Oh, got it. Got it. They're looking to rip them in the backcountry, jump in, and just getting after it like a dirt bike.
Yeah, we made a
Mhm.
deal with Camso and 80 Bovine to use the Snowhawk track. So we
The
were
what
cutting.
track? Oh, the Snowhawk.
Yeah. If you buy the race, I don't know what they come with today, but if you buy the race kit, like the axle from the race department at Polaris, they come with the Snowhawk
Here it
track
is.
on them still.
I think this is it right here. They're trying to figure out how can we get rid of some track still. Is that it? Kind of like this.
I don't know what that is.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, it
look,
says
that's
it's
new.
a 2023 kit.
That's
okay.
that's the track though.
Yeah, that's what I
the
mean.
track.
The track. Yeah, the Snowhawk track.
Yeah.
Got it. So you guys sell 50 of these, and you guys are like, well, yeah, this is a hit too. Let's make more.
So that year, 2011, 12 year.
Yeah.
So March comes along, and we go to the Jackson Hole Hillclimb. That's when I met Regan and Brock. I'm going to climb the hill for the first time in an expedition. And so it was Snowhawk Central. All the big Snowhawkers showed up, and they're going to slay this hill. And it's an exhibition.
Yeah.
It's not a like a event.
It's not
like
a race. Yeah.
It's not race. So they're going to send the Snowhawks at the time. It was a Snowhawk event. And the Snowhawk guys made it happen. Yeah, sorry. You can drink water.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty impressed. You haven't been drinking, man. I gotta like suck down the water when I'm talking here.
So the Snowhawk guys are going to hit the hill, and they send them up one at a time. It's the most boring thing. And oh my God.
Why the most boring thing?
You can go all the way to the top of the mountain. So the snowmobiles have not gone to the top of the mountain yet. So they're going to send these Snowhawks up as an exhibition, and they're going up, and half of them don't even make it to the first cat track. Some of them make it to the first cat track and hit the cut bank on the other side, and that's it. They're done. I was
like
nervous
what?
as hell.
They couldn't stay upright. Like what was going on?
They just couldn't handle them. Yeah, it was just too. I mean, once they got out of control, they just shoot out from underneath you. You can't go slow with a Snowhawk. You have to be wide open with them.
Yeah.
And they got their place in the world, so I'm not dissing on them. But this wasn't it.
Yeah.
This was not it. So
not a hill climb.
The crowd is like bored to hell. Like, get these things off the hill. Let's get back to snowmobiling. So I am completely unprepared for this. They asked me the day before, or the day of, if I wanted to climb the hill on my snow bike. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know about this. I am completely unprepared for this. I'm not the right guy to be climbing this hill. I had a KX 450 at that time, a fuel injected one. I'm like, okay, I'll try it, but I want to go last. I want to watch the others go up the hill. And I'm like, well, I know I can do better than that. And so they're going up the hill and just making asses out of themselves. So they send me up the hill, and I'm like, brrr, on my motorcycle.
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
going very fast. And I get to the first cat track, and I'm like downshift one, and I start heading up the hill, and I'm like doing pretty good. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it's getting steep. I'm good. I'm no pushover on this thing. And I get to the steep part, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going straight up that thing. For one, I have no traction. It's freaking ice. It's friggin' ice. My track is not even biting the snow. So I'm like, okay, it's all moguls. It's a mogul hill for skiers. It's a mogul run. It's full of frickin' moguls.
Sounds terrible. Sounds terrible.
Oh, horrible. Oh, and it's
terrible.
melting snow, and it's ice, and it's rocks and shit in the snow, and stumps. And I'm like, but I can go around all these. Wow. Yeah. I'm like, okay. I'm like methodically thinking the whole time. I'm trying not to freeze up and stop thinking, because then I'm going to crash.
This is like your moment of truth, man. All eyes are on you, Allen, like just watching you do this.
Every snowmobiler in the nation is watching.
Oh my gosh, dude.
This is like the point where it makes my business or it breaks it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to crash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to side hill back and forth. So I do. I side hill, and it's so freaking steep and so slick on the ski run, I can't stop. So I have to shoot off into the trees where the snow was softer, because there's trees on both sides. And then I have to do a downhill turn and go back the other direction and take the high line.
Oh my gosh.
And the announcer's down there saying, well, he's done. I can hear, I can't hear him, but I could see him on the video. It's on video. I think it's on YouTube, to be honest with you, somewhere.
Oh, I got to find
he's done. Oh, here he comes again. I come shooting out of the trees, and I'm up the hill, and I zigzag the hill 3 or 4 times. And before you know it, plunk, old Allen on his snow bike sitting on top of the hill.
Oh, my gosh, dude.
The crowd's going freaking nuts.
Just losing it, I bet.
Just losing it. The snow bike guys are at total shame of what just happened,
dude.
Because they are anti-snow bike, right? It's like
the snowmobilers or the snowhawks? The
snowhawkers. They're like
the
snow bikers are just lame intruders to their sport, and you just dummied them in their event on their hill.
So you just showed them up. You showed the snowmobile world what these are all about, and I mean, like you said, that was it, man. I mean, it's one of the biggest snowmobile events in the country, the Hillclimb in Jackson Hole.
Yep. I think it took me about 4 minutes to get up that hill that time, and like a leading snowmobile is like a minute and 30-40 seconds, like a Keith Curtis type run,
right?
And I'm cresting it at about 4 minutes on a stock KX 450. And so we just made history. It went on YouTube. It's still on YouTube, I think. The next year
I'm
comes
looking
around,
it up right now, man.
I have basically the next year I had basically the same bike, a different bike, but the same thing. The snow was a little better that year. I climbed it again. That is also on YouTube.
Oh my gosh.
And then
I'm going to find them all.
And I think I climbed that. I think I skipped 1 year. And then the 4th year, I climbed it on a turbocharged KX4 or KTM 450.
I have seen that one.
And that year I put on a Snowhawk track on my kit, and I put studs in the track, so I had metal in the track. That was the trick. That was the trick. You had to have traction on the ice. And so they did it as an expedition that year as well. They sent all the snow bikers up the hill at the same time. Everybody.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, was that chaos, dude?
It was chaos. Havoc on the hill. It was. I
bet.
For a snow biker, that was as cool as it got. But I was on a turbocharged bike, and Keith Curtis was also on a turbocharged bike, but my bike was set up better than his, and I kicked his ass. And I climbed, I crested, I went straight up that hill. We didn't do all the gates. We had to go between the gates, but not like, it wasn't like S turning the gates.
Yeah.
And I crested that hill in like 1 minute and 29 seconds.
Damn.
And that was the last year I did it. And Keith Curtis came up second. Another guy came up, and believe it or not, some dude, I can't remember his name, crested that hill on a YZ250 two-stroke with a mountain horse kit on it.
Damn, dude.
Climbed out of that hill. And so that was the last time I climbed the hill.
That was
that
2014, 2015?
I think it was 2014, I'd like to say. It wasn't 2015, yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it wasn't 2015.
Dude, well, I will definitely, I'm going to have to track down these videos. Because I'm
they're there
on YouTube, and I can't find them when I type in, like, you know, your name or Timbersled, but I'm sure they're under something.
Yeah, I don't know. You might try
we'll
like
them.
Snowbikes at Jackson Hole or something.
I'm good at finding stuff online. I'll find it here later. I'll post it.
It used to all be on the Timbersled YouTube page, but I'm sure they've purged all that junk off of there.
Hopefully not, man. That's got to give him some good love.
Well, Regan climbed that hill that year too.
Yeah. So a couple of years into it, so you guys do the Jackson Hole climb. So walk us through the next couple of years leading up to, 2011-12. It's blowing up. You guys sell more kits. You have a dealer network established. Now you've got Regan Sieg, Brock Hoyer riding them, but you still don't really have there's no pro snow bikers yet, right? Like this is just before they're even getting into it.
Yeah, there's still no snow bike racing circuit yet.
Yeah.
I can't remember when that kind of started to become a thing. I was kind of phasing out of it, I think, at that point. When that started coming online, but it was just filling the void of thousands of snowbike kits a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
wait, so you got up to thousands when 2012 and 13?
No, this would have been 14 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
15,
okay.
16. So 15, got 16 was the last model year that I produced it as Timbersled.
Yeah. Pre-Aero, right?
Pre-Aero, yeah.
Yeah. These are all mountain horses.
So we had TSS at that time, the Timbersled suspension strut, and we had the integrated gas can mounting systems and a lot cooler looking tunnels and stuff on them. Had our timber, we called it the Timber TS backcountry ski, the Timbersled Simmons ski. So
yeah, when did you guys come out with this new ski? So at first you had the 6-inch, and then when did you guys say, hey?
2014 or 15? I think it was 2014.
Or maybe what led to that?
21, 12. Might have been model year 2013.
Yeah, because I remember seeing a 14 kit. It definitely had the 10-inch one.
Okay, yeah. And so we came out with it in 2013. And so the reason we had Simmons build that ski for us, so we designed it. They helped us design it. I was friends with Val Simmons and their family. And there was some patented technology that they had at the time that I wanted to use, which was the outside keels on the outside of the ski.
And this was something that wasn't on snowmobiles, really, or?
Well, the Simmons 6-inch ski had the keels on the outside of the ski. That's why it worked so good. But it didn't have a keel in the middle of the ski. So we designed this, what we thought was the biggest frickin' ski ever built, this 10-inch huge frickin' ski, 3 keels on it. So it rode down the trail on the middle keel.
Yeah.
And we were using their ski skags at the time, which were basically carbided ski skags.
Yeah.
We hadn't developed what would be the current type of ski skag yet. That didn't come until the next year. So those skis worked really good. Big improvement to the snow bike. We suddenly had the flotation. We suddenly had the grip. We suddenly had this trail riding capabilities. And then the next year, which was one of
the biggest things lacking before was the flotation and the trail, handling.
It was more flotation than it was anything. Certainly the trail ride could be improved, icy conditions, but honestly, the 6-inch ski goes okay down the trail. It's a little shifty darty, but it works okay because it's so skinny.
Yeah.
And then the 10-inch ski had the center keel on it, so that was the first tri-keel Snowbike ski. And then from there, we improved the ski skags and got them even better on the trail.
Once the 10-inch one came out.
Yeah.
So I want to back up just a little bit because, talk about real quick, if you don't mind, bringing on Brett, because Brett was, I think a lot of us, when we got started, at least for me, 2016, a lot of us remember Brett, seeing his face, the sales, marketing, all that. So he came on board. Brett was one of the founders of Two Moto. So when did you bring Brett on board? And talk about that background.
You're going to ask me what year that was. It was probably 2013, somewhere in there. Man, all the years run together at some point, so it's hard to remember. But he worked at Pro Moto Billet, Fastway Pro Moto Billet. After he left Two Moto, he went to work for Lynn Hodges at Pro Moto Billet, and those guys sold my Snowbike kits. So I knew Brett, got to know him really well from that because they were one of my premier dealers.
And you knew him obviously before. Two Moto days. Yeah,
for sure. And so, he and I got pretty close. Always riding together every chance we had, going to snowmobile shows together. Just became friends. And of course, I'm like, well, who's my ultimate guy to be my marketing director? It's Brett. So I talked him into coming to work for me and moving to Sandpoint, Idaho. And
he told me that story. It's a pretty funny story.
So without getting into all the details, he did moved his whole family up there and came to work for Allen to live the dream of Snowbikes. And he did for a lot of years until he left Timbersled. So, but yeah, just personal friends, friends of the industry. I needed his knowledge. I needed his energy.
Yeah. Brett is the sales, the marketing. Yeah. A lot of energy. I look at him like he's the hype man. He just hypes that up.
You talk to him and you're pretty sure he's going to burst into flames at any minute. It's this excitement level.
Yeah. Riding with him was fun. I got to ride the Riot on one of the first years when that was coming out. I came up to Timbersled and went riding with him, and that was just a ton of fun, man. Yeah, that was that would have been 2018, I think, was when I came there. 2018, 2019.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Brett is he's knowledgeable, but he's also a incredible rider, right? He's like athlete level rider.
Yeah.
And he was always smaller. He could always kick my ass. He's just lighter weight and more athletic, I guess. But he was just a good rider. He was really fun.
He gets after it.
Yes.
That's awesome. So Brett's on board. He's running the marketing show pretty much then, and
doing all the demo rides, dealing with all the dealers. Everything I didn't have time to do. And he could do better than me because of his knowledge and his education level and abilities. So
and you're just back there like grinding, making Snowbike kits, man, and just pumping them out and figuring out.
I don't do anything. All I do is keep coming up with new designs, keep developing, keep pushing the engineering, keep meeting with my team. I walk through the shop and I inspect what people are doing every single day. I look at parts. I talk to my guys. I have a pretty big staff, so it's hard to have a personal relationship with everybody, and that's kind of my whole thing. I'm a relationship-based guy. I want to know everybody. I want to give them the time of day, the best that I can. And so I did that with my crew, did that with my dealers, my customers, and that's what I'm going to do today with Mountaintop. I
Yeah.
like to be a little bit of an open book. I like people to be able to read you, when you meet them.
No,
Um,
I think there's a lot to be said about that. It has the kind of the old vibe of doing business back in the day with the handshake and,
yeah,
talking to the guys face to face. And there's just something to be said because it's gotten lost, I feel like, a lot in America and in the world. So no, that's awesome, man.
I'd have this in the bag if I could make another $4,500 Snowbike kit.
Right? Yeah. If only. Yeah, those days are long gone. So talk us through then. You're having fun. You're building this awesome company. Like you said, you want to have fun. If you're not having fun, you don't want to do it. So talk us through the buyout and going into Polaris and how this whole thing came to be.
Sure. So there's some stuff that went on prior to Polaris that we denied and didn't want to get involved in. But Polaris comes around, and there was an engineer at Polaris named Marty Sampson. He just retired this year. I knew him because he was kind of the product manager at Polaris and was just kind of embedded in the industry. He was a guy that would get out in front of the people and talk to people and be on Polaris demo rides. But he's I don't know. I guess in my eyes, he's the reason Polaris snowmobiles are the way they are. And that's the style that I like. So I knew Marty. So they had Marty call me, whenever it was 2015, and talk to me about something. They wanted to meet with me. So they used Marty to break that ice. And so,
you had no desire, like you weren't seeking buyers. You weren't out there like, yeah.
Absolutely not. I was living my dream.
Yep.
I was financially healthy, knew what I was doing business wise, but you never close the door before it opens. So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure I know what this is about, but they won't tell you what it's about.
Yeah.
So Marty Sampson and Chris Wolf and a guy that worked for him at the time, acquisition guy, the guy that did all the was like the manager for buying companies, I guess. All nice guys, all good Minnesota guys, came out to talk to old Allen about Timbersled, and they told me that they were interested in. Basically, they told me they're interested in new markets.
Yeah, you're making a dent in their snowmobile sales, so they're like, "What's going on over here?"
I don't know if I was making a dent in their snowmobile sales, but I had something unique going on, right? They're always looking for that next, Polaris Razor type product line,
right.
And they're willing to, put their money where their mouth is to explore those ideas. And so I'm a Polaris guy, right? That's my brand, and so I'm like, you bet, come out and talk to me. Pretty sure I know what this is about, but I won't ask questions until you get here. So sure enough, they want to buy me. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess we'll just take it to the next step. I don't really know where this is going because everybody asks me, would you ever sell your company? Has anybody ever come to you to ask to buy your company? I'm like, no, why would they buy my company? I'm just an aftermarket company. But sure enough, they come knocking on your door. So I let them in. And, they told them, I said, well, I guess we'll have to see what the negotiating numbers are. And man, they came back with some pretty good numbers that weren't overly complicated. I don't know how they came to their number, but they did. And of course they want to see some information. They want to see, you got to send them like a little bit of information to see kind of where you're at. They want to make sure you're not like,
what's your P&L,
before they make an offer. Yeah, they want to make sure you're not in debt or something. So we just kept taking it to the next level.
How many employees did you have roughly at this time?
Well, around 60, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of part-time guys coming in, to build stuff and then in the off season.
All
really?
full-time. Yeah.
Damn,
all full-time,
that's
full-time
awesome.
year-round because we manufactured everything.
Oh yeah, that's true. And you guys
Not
are
everything
doing
like
snowmobile
shocks and
stuff.
tracks, but
Right.
we produced all the parts for the kits. I mean, we were a
Mm-hmm.
full service shop,
Mm-hmm.
CNC, metal fabrication, welding shop. So we basically manufactured everything ourselves, and that was all hard to keep up with, but we were a good company. People wanted to work for us. You know,
Yeah.
we had a good reputation in our town. We paid good. Um, you know, we treated everybody with respect, and you felt like you were a part of a team. And so we would get people, and I mean, through history, I don't think I ever had more than 4 or 5 guys quit, but they quit to go do different things, not quit because they didn't like their job.
Yeah.
We never had that going on ever.
That's awesome. That's
So yeah,
awesome, man.
just a good old boy way of doing things.
Yep. Yep. So Polaris comes to you with some numbers.
So they come with some numbers, and we're like, oh man, I had to think about it for a while. Finally, my wife and I, we decided, let's take a look at this. What was in the back of my mind was this. They come to me, they got great numbers. I may never be able to extract that kind of money from my company ever, which that's not what I was into. I basically, through history, have reinvested every ounce of my profits back into my company. I never paid myself a paycheck. I just took draws to survive.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
I was living a dream, right?
Yeah.
I didn't
I
need
understand that.
money. I mean, I didn't even live in a nice house. So I'm like, okay, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. This is Polaris we're talking about here. It's not like
Yeah.
we're just talking
Right.
about some company I never heard of.
Yeah.
Um,
The biggest,
and they
the
had,
big of the
and
big.
Climb had just sold. So I met
Oh
with
yeah.
Justin Summers and talked to him about his situation before I made the final decision. But and his problems were the same as my problems. Is I was growing so rapidly that I was having, even though I was reinvesting every ounce of profit into my business, I was having a hard time coming up with enough funds each year to fund the growth.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? This is my opportunity for a big company to fund my company correctly, to grow my company as it deserves. And I saw it as an opportunity, and this being my dream as a child, as you kind of learned, is I wanted to be a snowmobile builder. And it was my aftermarket company, its opportunity to become an OEM,
Yeah.
right? So my snowmobiles that I wanted to build and sell were actually Snowbike kits. You
Yeah.
know, so I fulfilled that dream, but getting what I would say to the end of my abilities, or so I thought, of my abilities of just everything I was needing to keep growing. And for them to be able to take my company to the next level, and for my company, my aftermarket company, to become known as an OEM company of a sport,
Mm-hmm.
to me was the number one reason for selling. That's what I wanted for my company.
Yeah.
And so I took the opportunity. Now there was a lot I didn't know and all that. I was very ignorant to, you know, what happens when big companies buy small companies. But Polaris in general was the right partner. They're a good company. They're big and awkward, but they're a good company.
Good
And
people there.
they're good people. And
Yeah.
you know, I didn't know how they would run my business. I didn't know if we would be independent or somehow part of
Right.
the snowmobile group. We became part of the snowmobile group. And it didn't probably go exactly how I wanted, but I completely understand why they had to do what they had to do to run the business with their way of being able to do business, which was a more of a corporate way.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly for me. I love them. I'm not a corporate guy. I'm more of a relationship kind of guy. The corporate world is not based on relationships,
Yeah.
but they are a good company. They've done well with Timbersled. They continue to do well with Timbersled. I respect them a lot. I will be their biggest freaking competitor, though.
I love
And they're going to have to step up to keep up, because I'm putting
that's
all my
great.
heart and soul into this from the way that I know how to do things. And we're going to keep it friendly.
Yeah.
And that's my intentions going in. But yeah, I want to push the limits.
Well, I mean that's what you did with Timbersled. You put everything into it, man, and you know it obviously shows. I mean, a company like freaking Polaris. I mean, shit, you started it in 2011, basically, and in 4 years, 5 years, Polaris is wanting to buy you. I mean, dude, that's like I can only imagine. You're just like, is this happening? Like, what is going on here, man? Like, Polaris.
Pretty flattering for sure.
Oh man. So they the buyout then, and you know, get into whatever you can or not. But going into that, I can imagine like, all right, hey, I want to see this happen. I want to see this growth. I want to be involved XYZ. Were you able to stay involved like you wanted to? Or was it kind of like, hey, Alan, we got this now. We appreciate everything you've done, but we got it from here.
Well, I started off kind of being involved in all the business stuff, but I was pretty honest with myself as that got going. I realized this was way past my education level. And they kept me involved in all the product planning and all the big shot meetings and stuff you had to go to. And I stayed involved in that, but I didn't do the business related things like all the spreadsheets. I didn't get involved in any of that. They realized that wasn't my forte, and that's not what they needed me to be doing. They needed me to be continuing to help innovate the product line and drive the product line and get their what they call long range product planning in place and help decide, you know, where this is going to go and what was needed. You know, we obviously were working on a lot of new design prior to them coming along, and you know, how do we implement those designs, you know, like Aero and such. And then they came in with a lot of horsepower, engineering horsepower, and they started to take what we had done from a machine shop type of manufacturing and took it to the ability to produce the part, like forgings and castings and molds and stuff that just took money.
They had a lot of horsepower behind them.
Just a lot of capability. A lot of engineering tools, and we ended up taking what was now Aero and redesigning it into what it is right now with the aluminum frame and the forging in it and everything. But you know, design wise, it's really no different than what, you know, functionality and design and feel of what, you know, we had already produced. It's just got put together in I wouldn't say a cooler way, just a more manufacturable way.
Right. Yeah. The production kind of look, I guess, is what I like to think of.
It's very produced, and more so into Riot. Riot's even more tooled and more produced with its molded components and nice stuff. You know, so yeah, those were all capabilities I was struggling with.
Yeah. So you're helping on that side of things. When did you kind of know you're like, you know, I'm kind of done with this? I'm sure there was some sort of working contract or something, I know, with a lot of buyouts. So when did you kind of know you were like, I'm ready to start moving out of this?
Well, for one, I loved business. And so I had a 5-year contract with them, and they were really good to me, but I wanted to become a partner at Boondocker. I was very good friends with the owner at Boondocker. And it sounded like a great idea to be in partners and for me to bring to them what I had to offer. And they were really gracious. They signed me, they took my contract and modified it. And so I did the same job, but remotely. That's when I moved to Idaho
Right.
Falls. So that was like, I think 2 year, I don't know, 2.5 years in, 2 years in. Well,
Why
3 years
why
in, 3 years
Idaho?
in.
Why Idaho Falls?
Well, because that's where Boondoctor was at.
Oh, copy. All right, I'm tracking.
So I continued to do my development job for Timbersled, and I was working at Boondoctor, and I had bought in as a partner. So I became a partner at Boondoctor.
The Boondocker turbos, like, is that
Yes.
like that's what you're talking about? Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
So that didn't work out too good for me. I won't go into that story, but
Yeah. It's another day.
another day. But I continued to work for Polaris.
Yeah.
Even after I stopped working at Boondoctor, I continued to work for Polaris through my contract. And so it was just, I would have kept doing the job if they wanted me to, but I think they thought, I live down here now. They either need me full time at Timbersled. I don't know, but I developed products for them, all the way up to the last day of my contract.
I mean, you were involved in all of what we're seeing now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously you're getting new kits and, you're getting the new stuff from them. You're testing it. So you're still involved with snow biking. You're still,
Yeah, I didn't get too much into what they would call validation of pre-production stuff. I was pretty much product innovation. So Riot suspensions, all of that, skis, tracks, everything right down to, the rubber that goes under the ski kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was to create new trio, all of that stuff. It's all, my project, my original projects.
So your ideas then they're still taking them and implementing them, and I imagine that's still fulfilling for you. Like you're still like, sweet.
Oh, it is. It's patent after patent after patent. And quite honestly, that was my biggest frickin' challenge with this, is steering around all the patents.
I bet.
And I hope there's not one in there that I missed, but I got a patent attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely prevents you from doing a thing or two. So they're very smart that way.
Yeah. So when did you then kind of realize, like, all right, I want to do this again. I want to build, we'll call it, I'm not saying Timbersled 2.0, but you're like, all right, I know what I know now. I'm ready to take the next step and do my thing. When did you know that?
It's kind of always been in the back of my mind, but I didn't really make any decisions until a year and a few months, because what I wanted to do was get into the UTV/sand car market.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's your other big passion, the sand rails. Like
sand rails are extremely cool to me. Side by sides are extremely cool to me, but I've had to tone all that down to do this. But I had a top of the line sand car, and I was starting to work with the company that manufactured them to build new parts, suspension parts for them, like develop new suspension parts.
Why it's just funny. I think a lot of guys that are listening to this are like, we love dirt biking. We ride dirt bikes in the off season. Like, yeah, cool, side by sides, this other, this stuff. But I know for me, like, I love dirt biking, and that's my jam in summertime. So why for you was it sand rails versus like dirt biking?
Well, because I'm a horsepower guy. I love horsepower, and there's nothing more impressive than sand cars.
I've never been in one. I'll have to go in one.
Well, I'm gonna send you a picture here.
I've seen a few of the ones that you have on your like Instagram page, and
the same one. So I mean, you got a 1,000, 1,200 horsepower car that's 3,000 pounds.
1,200 horsepower.
Oh yeah, that's a low horsepower
Oh my
one.
gosh, damn, dude, that's crazy. So it was really more about the horsepower for you.
Just the art of driving a car like this. It was more about the art. I wanted to be. I'm an extreme guy. I love adrenaline, and I love safe adrenaline. I don't love doing backflips and that kind of stuff. I'm not a jumper, but I
I'm
love
with you there.
safe adrenaline. And so the sand car, there's an art to driving them. That was my biggest reason for wanting to have one, is I wanted to learn the art of doing what I just sent you a picture of. It's extreme as hell.
Pull it up here.
And so I feel like I've mastered that art. And then, but COVID came and screwed everything up. So this company was like, God, a bunch of stuff happened to them. The founder of the company got in a car accident and died.
Jeez.
They had just moved into a big new modern building to produce these cars in. And they just got to the point where, and COVID came along, and they went from a 1-year lead time to buy a car to like a 5-year lead time, because there were so many domestic cars being ordered. I don't know what the heck happened, but all of this happened right in COVID 2020, 2021. And they basically told me, we can't deal with all of this. We're going to have to pump the brakes on this suspension project that I was doing for them. And I was using my own car to develop this, which was their latest and greatest, car. And so when that kind of happened, that was 2021 that they told me that, because I had spent all of 2020 working on this project. It's pretty far along with it. I was going to use Fox internal bypass shock absorbers and a bunch of stuff that has never been used on one of these cars. So It was a very, very modern electronic adjusting suspension.
Damn.
So it was pretty high tech stuff, but yeah, I kind of got the rug yanked out from underneath me on that. And so at that time, I'm like, oh man, I'd spent a year, more than a year. I was working on it prior to my, leaving of Polaris. And so I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? I gotta have a safe solution.
Yeah.
I'm 42 years old at that time.
So you weren't. So when you were done with Timbersled, you're like not thinking, I'm gonna go start another snowbike company, eventually.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's the last thing on earth I wanted to do.
But
give me a year to heal up and have a couple failures, which was Boondocker and now my sandcar gig. I'm like, okay, Allen, what's Allen good at? Allen's good at making vehicles go in snow.
Yeah. And apparently ripping sand too.
So there you go. There's
that
the car.
thing's insane, man. I can imagine that's pretty damn fun to drive.
Remember when you were a kid and you had an RC car?
Oh yeah, I was hardcore into those, man.
That's the real life version of that.
Damn, dude. 1,200 horsepower.
Yeah, they range depending on how much boost you throw at them. But
so are you? I mean, you said you're not a jumper, so you're not like jumping this thing, hundreds of feet. You're just ripping, like fast.
What I'm doing here is this hillside. It's probably a 50-degree slope or 60-degree slope. It's sloughing sand, like basically the top of a sand dune. There's a big cornice right here at the top, and you go up the hill. You crank a corner. You lightly clutch the car, and you ride a wheelie down the hill all the way to the bottom, and you have to set it down. You can't run out of power or speed, and you can't set it down on the bottom, otherwise you'll just splat all over the ground.
And so you're riding this wheelie down all the way.
Yeah, you're riding a wheelie down the hill all the way, and you're setting the car down. I've set it down as high as 100 miles an hour. That's
how fast?
100 miles an hour.
Jeez.
Yeah, so you go up, you turn, you're in third gear, you're in a 5-speed transmission, sequential transmission,
Yeah.
like a motorcycle has. You pull the car into a wheelie, you grab the next gear in the wheelie, and you got to ride the wheelie out all the way till the car starts to run out of power, so you can set it down. Because you can't just
Jeez.
chop the throttle; it'll just smash the car
Or
right
you'll
onto the ground.
just
Yeah,
freaking eat it.
and you have to set it down before you meet the bottom of the hill, otherwise you'll meet the transition and just splat yourself all over the ground like a falling out of an
Yeah.
airplane.
Yeah.
So it's an art.
I
And
guess, man.
it takes a little time to learn that art, and when you got it, it's like riding a bike. You just got it, and nobody else does.
Yeah. You just feel it's a feel thing, right? You just are feeling it, man.
It's a feel thing. It's a throttle control, steer brakes. I mean, there's a lot going on in that cab of that car.
It's you're in the as it's known as you're in the flow state, Alan. You're just flowing, man. You're in that flow state.
So this picture has part of my suspension project. So you see these shocks on the front of that car.
Yeah.
So those are internal bypass shocks. Fox's latest, basically side-by-side shock on here with all fully electronically adjusted.
And that's not a thing.
No.
In Sandrails.
Nope, still isn't. Won't be until somebody like me picks the project back up.
Oh,
it's a game changer.
It's the next project.
Absolute game changer to these cars.
And are these cars or the Sandrails? I mean, obviously you got to have sand close by. So down in what, St. Anthony or the St. Anthony sand dunes, right?
Yep, that's right here, 50 minutes from my house.
Got it. And but worldwide, I imagine this is pretty big.
It's big worldwide, yeah. A lot of Arabs
Yeah.
Have these cars. A lot of Americans, the Glamis sand dunes in California are real big and popular. All your Southern Californians and Texans and Arizona people all into this.
Got it. Well, that's freaking, they're sweet, man. I gotta ride in one of these days. So the project's done. You're done with the Sandrails, like you said, and now you're like, all right, what's next? What am I gonna do?
Yeah, so I mean, through that year, I've been, thinking, what I'm gonna do. So this ended in like the spring of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, what am I doing here? I got nothing going on, nothing in front of me. I have this bitchin' shop.
Well, nothing going on because I'm sure you're doing stuff.
Well, I'm doing stuff, but it's nothing that pays or it has any merit to it other than helping friends out and doing cool side-by-side projects, building turboed side-by-sides and stuff. My dad's an engine builder like we talked about, so he was doing some motor build stuff for side-by-sides, trying to build heavy-duty motors that could take big boost.
Yeah.
So, I got all that going on. But the Snowbike thing came up. I didn't really start on that until June of 2021. So
so you'd left Polaris. You're done with Polaris.
Yeah.
And
I legalized mountaintop Snowbike. I think it was the end of May, end of May, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of just getting my ducks in a row. I couldn't go out and get any accounts or ask to work with companies until I had a business, right?
Right.
It was different than at Timbersled. Timbersled had an established business. Here, I have nothing. I have no product line. There's no suspension part. There's nothing. I have to start from scratch. 100% from scratch. So the very first thing I did is I got with my old patent attorney and had him pull up all the IP that was out there and try to, pull my bucket list of things that I needed out of a snow bike. I kind of had the bucket list already pre-thought out, but I didn't know what I was going to be able to do or what I wasn't going to be able to do. So I did all that, and I started building parts. It was probably end of June, maybe 1st of July. I started building parts.
And at this point, before you were even building parts, like, I mean, did Timbersled know? I
No,
imagine there wasn't. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm sure
my
there's not a lot going on.
just my family and I.
Yep, yep.
But yeah, I'm a fast thinker, so I'm pulling my plan together, thinking, okay, I have to do what I know works. I don't have a lot of time to experiment with new things, but I've been there, done that on everything, almost everything,
Yeah, yeah.
more than I'm even telling you. So,
You got a little bit of experience with Snowbike, so
just a little, and snowmobiles.
yeah.
And so I'm like, I pull my list together and I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. So I go right to work hand building parts. I built the first prototype was entirely hand built. Just like I've done in the past, no different than any other project I've ever done. It's all hand built, very little engineering. You prove the concept, then you engineer it, right? So you're not wasting time. You can waste so much time engineering something that you don't know is going to work, and you can spend so much money making parts and pushing go on a CNC machine or a laser cutter that will just start spitting out expensive metal that's crap.
Yeah.
Because you missed something.
Basically, you can engineer a project to death.
Yes. And these guys that say they've been working on something for 10 years, oh boy, that don't work.
Just make it already and let's see it.
Yeah. So that's why I do it this way. I hand build stuff. I prove the concept, then I engineer it. I do that on literally everything.
Yeah. And I want to say for anybody listening to this, everybody listen to this, if you want to listen about Allen talking about the kit itself, like we got a whole video on that 2 hours long. Go watch that and listen to that. But he really gets into what he did with the kit. And so I know we're already like 3 hours into this thing, dude. So I know you got to go get to family. And so I want to make sure that if guys want to really dig in deep, we've got that out there. So yeah, you're hand building everything. You're doing this, from scratch to prove the concept, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You're basically perfecting your design. But we started engineering kind of simultaneously. As I'm building and proving concept, we're also engineering parts behind. We're reverse engineering the part after the part's been proven and fit.
Yeah.
And so, of course, there's lots of little changes you make when you engineer something to make it easier for producing or better. You make a lot of your improvements that way.
So when you're starting this process, Allen, now you're starting to get into the weeds. You're starting to produce this. Is anybody else helping you at this point? I mean, you got to have some guys kind of knowing what's going on.
So I just have one other guy helping me at this point, and it's my friend Aaron Case. I've known Aaron a long time. I used to sponsor him as a professional snowmobile athlete at Timbersled. He then worked for me at Boondocker.
Got it.
And when all that fell apart, a lot of these guys stopped working there, and so he has a rental company. They rent side-by-sides and snowmobiles and dirt bikes, similar to what you do, but a little bit different, here at Idaho Falls. And he also has a independent contractor engineering business. It's mostly just him doing engineering projects. So I basically hired him as a contractor, and he works for me not every day, but I'd say part-time, 30 hours a week, as a contractor. So, I'd love to have him full-time if you'll have it, at some point, but he and I work super good together. He's super reliable. He's one of the best engineers that can do all the blueprinting and all the things that you have to be able to, source stuff.
Yeah. Given the designs to people and everything, building that out, mapping it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of legwork goes into sourcing and getting quotes and pricing and working with shops and engineering, and I do a lot of it myself as well. But yeah, that's his only job.
Got it. So he's helping you out with this project early on.
Yep, still helping me today. He's in here almost every day.
Nice.
So we're building a prototype, we're engineering the prototype, and eventually we get to the point where we have an engineered prototype as an assembly.
And this is 2021, right?
Yeah, this is last summer.
Okay.
So I go onto the snow with the hand-built prototype, and I'm perfecting a little this and that. The thing works great. I mean, just right out of the gate, because we know what we're doing, right? We don't have to sit around and experiment or reinvent a wheel. It just had my bucket list of things built into it. A lot of tuning and stuff went on there, and refining the suspension feel and all that, getting the stance of it right. And I'd had to rebuild quite a few things to change them, hand built. But in the meantime, we have this thing engineered. We're updating it daily. We're working with manufacturers who can build us the parts, and we're going out there and basically trying to fast track the pre-production components. So this unit right here is a prototype pre-production kit.
That's the one that you were first riding.
Yeah, this is like the second or third one.
Nice.
Third one. This is a third one. So that is a pre-production kit that it has everything that the production kit has.
And all, like you said, all your bucket list items, you're sitting there just tuning it and tweaking it, and you're riding this last season. You and who?
Rush started working for me last September. So he came on in September, September. So he's been with me a year now. So
and Rush Quarter. Yeah. Give us a little background on Rush.
So Rush is your, sport ambassador. So he was an ambassador for Timbersled for years, long before Polaris ever came around. He and I are friends, riding partners, friends. And when it came to who could be my general manager for this new company, he was my first phone call.
That's
so
awesome.
I called him and I said, dude, I realize you got a career with a real job, but would you want to come work for me as general manager on a startup company?
Yeah.
And I think it took him a little bit to decide this is absolutely what he wants to do, and
That's
finally,
awesome.
do something that he really feels passionate about. So I'll let you interview him and his story.
We'll get
but
into that.
He and
Rush
I
is
are,
from Rush is up here in Kalispell. This is his home base.
Well, I wouldn't say he's from Kalispell. He's
No.
He's from Ferndale, which basically is your Big Fork northeast end of your
the
lake,
Flathead Valley.
Flathead Lake.
Yeah.
But yeah, he and I are kind of just two peas in a pod. His talent's computers, and my talents are products.
Yeah.
And he loves to talk. It's like me.
Yeah. And he loves to talk snow bikes.
Yeah, he sleeps and breathes the snow bikes.
Yeah.
And he's an incredible rider. I don't know if you've ever gone to go riding with him, but you'll probably get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
I can barely keep up with him through the frickin' trees. He's that deadly fast. For a big guy, he's fast.
I'm looking forward to the shred session this winter.
We're gonna have them now that we're hanging out together.
Yeah. So Rush comes on then last year, and how far into the kit are you?
Oh,
I'm bring him on.
Yeah, I'm winter's just coming on. He's coming down here part time because he still lives up there.
Yeah.
I'm riding the prototype come early November, as soon as the snow hit, literally every day. And I'm refining and I'm working late hours and fixing stuff and dealing with vendors and people that are building stuff for me. I mean, I'm just on the gas.
And last year was a terrible winter down there for you, man.
It was a terrible freaking winter, but it doesn't mean we got good pickup trucks, right? So we can get to the snow.
That's right.
And then I didn't ride that prototype for very long, and I was on to a pre-production kit. The very first pre-production kit I have out in my storage barn right now. Same thing. We put a lot of miles on that kit. I did all my Fox tuning work with that kit. Durability tested with that kit. Put merely 100 hours on it, engine hours. And even when we got into our what we call pre-production prototypes, which is this one, you know, we were still riding and using that kit. So we have a whole slew of bikes here, this being one of them.
With pre-production kits.
Yeah. All of our bikes that we ride, or anytime you see us this year, it will be on pre-production prototypes from last year. We've taken them all apart and rebuilt them and repowder coated them and made them look new and updated all the graphics and paint and rails and Tyfax and all that stuff on them. So they're all fresh and new looking, but yeah, they're all prototypes. Damn
near hard to distinguish from a production model.
Yeah, I mean, you start talking about it, you can point out a ton of differences, but really hard to see with the naked eye.
So what talk me through the first, I mean, you described your first Timbersled ride. Like, what was it, you know, your first snow bike build? What was it like and did you go ride this by yourself this time?
Well, I went with my friend Scott, and he was on a snowmobile, and there was there might have been all of 2 inches of snow on the ground. And we drove it up the road, but I had the prototype ski on it, which was a machined ski, machined out of we call it the $10,000 ski. It was a $10,000 ski. And I'm riding this thing on the rocks the very first day. Like, what a freaking idiot. But it sure drove down the road nice, and it went over the rocks nice. I'm like, wow, we made a huge improvement on driving on rocks. Not too bad. I didn't have any heat treated ski skags. I was replacing the frickin' ski skags on the thing once a day. Because they were just mild steel ski skags that we had, built, and were trying to figure out which ski skag to run. But then it snowed, and eventually we were just off trail. And so I kind of feel like I kind of got my suspension in the ballpark, and I got my ski handling on the trail in the ballpark, all prior to us even being able to go off the trail.
Wow.
But then right around Christmas time, we got a ton of snow down here. And that was our part of the year. And we had great
did Rush come down and ride with you, like kind of in the beginning? Yeah,
but he was riding our other brand kit.
Oh, got it.
That other brand.
Got it. Yeah.
So we were constantly, comparing
your other brand.
Yeah. So we were constantly comparing, but that's all we had to ride, right? We had one unit, and then we quickly had 2 units. But yeah, we're always comparing, not in a bad way, but in a good way.
That's what I like to do.
So yeah, and our kit has a new feel, right? That's what we're after. We don't want the same old thing. They got a great ride and handling too, but this is different, and people are going to love it or hate it, but it's just very different. It's very light feeling, and that's hard to get used to. Like, it's a good feeling, but sometimes it's a bad feeling because it's so light, like in the steering, that you're like, is the ski even touching the freaking ground? But yet it turns.
I wrote a kit like that as well, and it for some people they're just like, I hate this is terrible, and it took some getting used to, but it was one of those things like, well, it might handle a little bit differently here, but once you're doing this thing, it feels amazing. So it is different though, like you said.
It feels more like you're on a snowboard than skis.
I like that.
You, instead of just, even though it steers so easy, you don't go into a corner and do this with the handlebar. You carve it and almost go the other direction with the steering.
Yep.
And it'll steer on the track, not like sliding, but you just feel it carve more so than you feel that you have to just be like steering head pressure.
Yep.
And I learned that with the sand car. I learned it with a sand car
Uh,
because a side-by-side steers on the sand like you're all front end weight. Steers like a snow bike.
hmm.
You're like always
Mm-hmm.
on the front tires, where a sand car has like rear steer. It's like more of a float than it is
Mm-hmm.
a heavy front end, and it feels very like you're very free with it. But
Mm-hmm.
it takes a little getting used to. You can't drive a sand car the same as you drive a side by side, and I'm going to say it's a little bit the same with this.
Yeah, I'm really excited to ride it because that's actually how I've always set up my bikes. Is very much I don't like the heavy steering. I like it where you're just you're steering more with your hips is the way I like to
Sure.
describe it, in your butt. So.
Yeah.
So you guys go out, you're riding it, and you test this all winter long, and I mean we're out of the gate. Are you like, yeah, dude, this is it? This thing is gonna freaking just kill it?
Well, it's yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's exactly what we thought, because we're comparing to the best of the best,
Yeah,
and we're comparing to something with a 3-inch track on it, which we have full intentions of having. But
Yep.
This thing's all about speed. It's fast. It's got track speed. It pulls a different gear. It holds a different gear. It steers easier. It's a little bit lighter. It feels like it's a lot lighter. And I'm not saying that in a good or bad way. It's just a different feel. And so
Yeah.
it's really refreshing to ride. And when you finally get used to it and you're like, and just calm down, stop overreacting on every freaking corner, stop reacting on every bump. Just let the bike be one with the machine.
Yep.
Become part of the machine. And you're like, all of a sudden, you're invincible. You feel invincible.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about snow biking. Yeah.
Yeah. The ability to bunny hop. Like you're going down a hill, you're in a ravine, you're going to nose it, and you can bunny hop the creek. That's a neat feeling.
Yeah. Almost like dirt biking. Like, that's kind of what you can do. Dirt biking. Bit.
I guess. Yeah. I think so. I don't
ride dirt well, you're not a dirt biker, Alan. Yeah. So you're riding sand cars.
It's like the sand car. You can float the front end over about anything and not have to just drive the ski between everything. You can float over the obstacles.
So last season, then you guys test this, and then when was it like, okay, we need to start figuring things out now? So you start reaching out to your contacts and establishing your dealer network, and talk to us about that, Alan, because I think that's really unique. What you guys did is you went to the guys that are, like you said, they make their living snow biking, or they are snow bikers like through and through. This isn't just like, hey, we're going to sign up 100 dealers and everybody's going to sell our kit.
Yeah. So to start with, we have a rule here. So this new business, clean slate in front of us, we can do what we want. Rule number 1, we don't deal with anybody that's not a like personality. Nobody. I don't care if they're a vendor or a dealer. If they're not alike personalities. Now, fortunately, in the motorsports world, most guys are of like personalities, which makes it pretty easy. But dealer-wise, that was one criteria. The other criteria, this is our bucket list of things for how to sell the kit. We want businesses that make their living selling snow bikes in the wintertime. There's a lot of great dealers out there that sell the snow bikes, but it's not their main source of income. There's some big dealers that sell a lot of snow bikes, but it's not their main source of income. So that's what we want. We want, when a customer calls our dealer, now some of them are new, they're not all established snow bike companies, so they're still learning, but they have the right mentality of individual. And when you call them, we want the customer to get the same impression that they get when they call and talk to me or Rush. You get the same guy every time. You get the service, you get the energy level of the sport. And that's what we want our product to be known as. So the guys that we have as dealers, they are hand selected. They have not come to us to be a dealer. We have gone to them. And we'll take on more dealers in the future, because I don't want to deter good shops. But if these shops make their living with snow bikes in the wintertime, they fit our criteria to be a dealer. And so right now we only have a certain amount of them. I can't remember what it is, 12 12 or 13 dealers.
Yeah.
We only can build enough product to meet the demand for that many dealers. Like if I took on more dealers, I would just leave them all disappointed
Yeah.
in
What you
not
don't
being
want
able
to
to.
do.
Yeah. So we're keeping a good list of guys that want to be dealers. We'll be in contact with them in the future.
Yeah, and for
And
everybody listening, go on the website mountaintopsnowbike.com, and it's super simple. There's tech dealers and info. Click on dealers, and there you go. You got them up here.
there's our guys.
And I've seen and as I've looked through, I'm like, oh, I've seen all these guys on Instagram and posting lots of snow bike stuff. So like every single one, as I've looked, I'm like, yeah, I know who all these guys are.
Well, so there's a few new ones in there, but most of them are OGs of the snow bike sport. They're original guys that I've done business with in the past.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're not necessarily, like you said, dealers, but they're guys that are snow bikers and they're active.
Yep.
That and so going in with that mindset for you, Allen, why was that so important?
Because if I'm not having fun and enjoying myself, I don't want to do it. So if I got to deal with 100 dealers and only 20 of them make it for me, I don't want to deal with the other 80. Right. So I want to have a relationship with every one of these guys. It's fun for me to have those relationships. When we go snow biking together, we're going snow biking. We're not testing or demo riding. We're just riding. And if a demo ride comes out of it, that's what happens. But we enjoy riding and we enjoy our company. And these guys all have great input for me that will help drive this new product line along, because they understand the customer better than I do even. And so that's why.
That makes sense, man. I think that's not only is it an admirable thing to do, I think that is going to be one of the things that not only distinguishes what you guys are doing and the business, but is going to help drive the success of the business, because you are focused on the customer. I mean, that's
well, and growing the industry as a whole, not just growing ourselves, but I feel like it's our job to keep coming up with super exciting things and driving companies to do new things on their end. And that's why we're partnering with companies of the industry to build like our accessories and stuff. And I mean, that's all the things we did in the beginning that grew the sport from the beginning. So I want to do that again. And I want to continue to grow the sport so that there's more snow bikers. Now, I get it. Our product's expensive, but we bring a pretty high excitement level to the industry.
And at the end of the day, as we talked about previously, when you start pricing everything out, it's right in line with the high end kits on every other competitor.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's just how you look at it, how you price it. But our kit comes with everything you need to run it on your bike. You don't need to go add a bunch of stuff to it to make it the best. It just shows up that way. It's just easy. It's got a sticker shock, but there's no hidden charges in there.
Well, what is what's one of the most one of the things you're most excited about going into this season, besides obviously your kit's out there now, so you're going to get tons of feedback and seeing riders, but beyond just that initial excitement, like what are you most personally excited about going into this season, man?
I'm going to say it's always riding. But I hope to get out and be able to ride with my old friends is probably what I'm most excited about. I went riding last year with my friend Derek Driggs for the first time in years, and unfortunately at Polaris, we don't get to ride with our friends very much because we're always riding development machines and top secret stuff, where with my own business, it's not so top secret. People are going to know what we're working on. It's just a matter of when it comes out and what it actually looks like in the end. But I thoroughly enjoy riding with my friends, the customers. I like them to see what I've got going on. That's what I look forward to the most, is
That's
having
awesome.
fun with my friends.
That's awesome. Well, I gotta agree on that. I think one of the reasons I got into doing what I'm doing is it is so fun taking people, especially for the first time, these new people that they see these things, and most people are very intimidated by them. But I'm like, man, if you have a lick of moto experience, and even if you don't, if you can ride a bike, I can teach you to snowbike. And after that first hour, they're just on cloud nine, having the time of their life, man.
Yeah, you realize it's easier than you think.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I see, and the first minute I hopped on a snow bike, I was like, this is going to be one of the biggest things like in the motorsports industry and the snow industry, because it's so easy to ride. They're so fun. It's like a blend of snowboarding and dirt biking and riding a wave runner, and like it just all mixed together, and like that is what that experience is like. And it's almost something you can't even describe to people. They have to just try it, man. And once they do, game over, man. They're hooked.
That reminds me of that first year when I started doing demo rides with those two bikes I had, and
Yeah,
the what people were left with after the ride was so gratifying.
dude, 100%. It's
I've never been told
of,
thank you so many times in my life, man. Like
yeah.
just soaking it all up.
It is. It's so fun, and to be able to show people where we can go. I tell them, and I had a buddy, and he bought a snow bike sight unseen. After talking to me, he's like, "Dude, you're hyping this up, man." And after our first ride, he goes, "There is not much, if anything, that lives up to the hype in life." And he goes, "And snow biking exceeded everything I could have even imagined."
So you brought up a good point, and that's what people's expectations are. And I learned this when I did those first year demo rides, and that was people had an expectation when they came. They knew it was good because you kind of were telling you, and other people had wrote it and it said something, and then they write it and their expectations are exceeded. Like they had an expectations and they were blown away.
Yep.
That doesn't happen very often in very many things.
Exactly.
That is kind of snow biking. Like I get what you say. A lot of people don't know how to ride them, but by the end of the day, they do know how to ride them. Now you do that with the same thing with a snowmobile. At the end of the day, you still don't know how to ride a snowmobile.
Nope. Yep.
It takes years to get good. Years.
I'm like, all this stuff we're doing, I'm like, I would never in a million years, nobody would that's a snowmobiler in their right mind take you into any of this. I'm like, you'd be hating life within 20 minutes, man. Like you would not be able to do this, But on a snow bike, it's like there's endless possibilities, man. Endless possibilities. Well, I just want to say, like, first of all, dude, thanks for everything you've done in the industry. Thanks for, pursuing your passion at really a young age, man. I mean, you've basically been in this, in snowmobiling your entire adult life. And so it's just cool to see that the American Dream one is still alive and well. And it's like hard work pays off. You've been at this for a long time. And so just thanks, dude, for everything you've done, because you've created, and perfected something that I think is just, it's vastly different than anything else out there. And, I know it's my addiction. And I love, obviously, yeah. And I love sharing it with people. And honestly, that's one of the most fun things for me is I love taking people out and watching them have fun and enjoying life. And this is just another tool out there to do that. And so thanks for that, man. I think everybody, yeah, you're welcome. And I think everybody who's in the snow biking world would say the same thing. And yeah, man. And thank you very much for your time and sitting down. I know, we're 3 hours and 40 minutes and I'm sitting here thinking, I remember when I started doing all this, I'm like, who the hell's going to listen to this? But man, they will. The snow bikers will.
I told you I only had an hour. I told you I had an hour, but it feels like we're about the end of that hour. Guess that's how much fun we're having.
I was waiting for you to just cut it off. My wife, my wife, she's a saint. She knows, like, when I get going with this stuff, it's kind of game over. So, Alan, is there anything else you want to just kind of leave and say here as we wrap this up about just kind of the future for snow biking and for you and your business?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like everybody's expecting and wanting a dedicated vehicle, which unfortunately is quite a bit more complicated than you realize. But it's on my bucket list of things to do in my life is to build a machine.
Yeah.
And this snow bike kit is where it's at. And so I guess with me personally, I realized that snow biking and snow machines are my life, and now I'm spending all of my money that I earned from selling my company to get myself back in the position of where I was.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm taking that risk, but I appreciate
Well, it's a
all
good
the
risk.
customers. Yeah, it's a good risk. It's a pretty sure bet. Betting
Yeah.
on myself here. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate all the people who have supported Timbersled and me in the past. I hope to make them proud with this new product. And yeah, my goal is to grow the industry as a whole, and I'm going to do that by pushing the shit out of my competitors.
Hell yeah.
They might be able to stomp me from a financial standpoint, but I ain't going to go down without kicking. So got a lot of great ideas, expect big things. Hope to make everybody very proud, but there's nothing more I want to be doing in my life than this right now.
Well, that's awesome, man. I'm excited to be a part of all of this and to be able to be living in this time and to see this. I think about the guys that started doing it, yourself included, the snowmobiles, the mountain sleds. I've talked to Brett Rasmussen and interviewed him, and you hear their stories of like they were the OGs, they were the original guys doing this stuff. And now look at the industry.
Well,
so I think about 20 years when we're their age, right? Like, what is this going to be like, man?
Yeah, I mean they're the OGs long before me.
Yeah, but that's what I mean in the snowmobile world, right? Like,
Yeah.
And so it's like we're in the beginning. I think still the infancy of snow biking. We're in 30 years, like you said, dedicated bike. Who the hell knows what it's going to be, man.
Wild machines.
Dude, it will be. So I got to ask you one thing because that made me think of, and just really briefly touch on this, but BRC, you and Riley will, two-stroke. I mean, this is right before you sold Polaris. He talked about this in the interview. I mean, what when that happened, when you talked to him about that, were you obviously couldn't pursue it once you sold Timbersled, but I mean, was that something where you were really like, oh, we're gonna build a dedicated like machine? That was years ago.
That was the whole point.
Yeah.
Back in 2014, I guess it was. I don't know what year it was.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. Is to start making steps. So they had interest in the snow bike. They had interest in building engines. There are engine builders. That's what they do. They were manufacturer. I mean, I'm not sure how many different kinds of engines they've built in the past, but I think at the time they were building a lot of go-kart engines, certain class go-kart engines. But he and I are on the same wavelength here. So
yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Since then, a lot of things have progressed on his end, and he's really looking for the best opportunity for him and his product line, and he holds a pretty neat patent on something that one of these manufacturers are going to have. I think that he's a little bit wanting or banking on one of these guys that's going to come along, but for some reason they're not. And I think now he's kind of softening and shifting gears to what could a partnership be with another company to, make his dream come true. And somebody may come along and snatch him up at that point. But if we were to ever work together, it would be in in a partnership to create something really cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty far down the road, in my opinion. It's not going to be next year or the next year or the next year even, but here soon, I hope that he and I can collaborate and talk about this a little bit more. The issue is making prototypes and manufacturing, engineering for manufacturing are so completely different. It is so easy to build prototypes compared to what it takes to manufacture. And honestly, that's Polaris' job. That's Skidoo's job. I don't know what they're going to do. I personally don't think the Snowbike conversion kit's going anywhere because, let's face it, there's a lot of dirt bikers out there. There's a lot of dirt bikes. They're great machines. But if they were ever to make something spectacular, but man, the engineering it takes, I know what they put into engineering snowmobiles and motors. I mean, what they did to buy us was not even 2 days in that segment of things.
Well, and it almost seems like the snowmobile industry, everything's going narrower. It's almost like they're like these pre-snow bikes. Like they're not a snow bike, they're still a sled, but man, they're so narrow now. You can just throw them on their side, but it's still different, you know.
My prediction with the snowmobile manufacturers is that the snowmobile is going to become more and more like a snow bike. I think it'll always have 2 skis. I think they're going to continue to make them narrower. They are going to need BRC technology to be able to make them narrower. They have to get the clutch off the engine. And they have to get the clutch behind the engine. And they have to get all that stacked in a line to be able to make the whole bodywork narrower. And if they can make those tracks, that ski stance narrower and narrower, and be able to make the snowmobile where you can basically sit on the seat and lean it like a snow bike and drive it across the hill like a snow bike sitting on the seat, well, the snow bike's in trouble if they do. And my prediction is that's where it's going.
Because it's already almost there.
It's just progression is all it is. It's already there. Yeah. I mean, who knows? They're probably already riding machines like this, but
well, I know you've probably seen the Exo sled, and I'm hoping to have one of those this season. I just got to get a snowmobile, and we're going to have one of those. So,
yeah. So my opinion on all of this stuff is the narrowness is key. And so you even take like a Snowhawk, for example, they can't turn because they're paneled out all the time. So, I mean, sometimes our radiator shrouds and our handlebars up that high are still too wide, right?
Yeah, you're dragging.
It's shaped like this, and you can't get these things narrow enough, and you can't get them light enough. So from a power to weight standpoint, the bike is kind of still the best thing. So in my opinion, and where I'm going is I'm engineering a turbo. I want a turbo that works on these 4-stroke motorcycles, because that
you still think a 4-stroke is the way to go?
Well, I don't know if it's a 4-stroke or 2-stroke. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the dirt bike and the narrowness and the ride of these things are pretty top notch. It's hard to beat that in a integrated chassis. And the power to weight that these motorcycles have is really pretty good, because let's face it, you get it much heavier than it is, you can't tip it over and stand it back up. Right? So you can't be over a 300-pound dry weight. It's too much. I mean, so you need to be, ideally, you want to be 300-pound wet weight, full of fuel, ready to ride. So turbos, not quite double the horsepower, but all in the same package, gives you a pretty neat feeling. We just need turbos that spool and work correctly. And with modern turbo technology, it's possible. So it's definitely progressed since the Boondocker, turbo was created.
Dude, well, there's so much technology and so much new stuff to come. And I agree. I think it's just going to progressively get better and better, and it's going to be either a partnership or one of these manufacturers is going to come out with something. But to your point earlier, it's a lot harder than people think. Everybody's like, oh, why don't they just make a kit, or a dedicated snow bike? Well, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah,
EPA, regulations.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, it's a whole,
laws.
yeah, it's a whole deal.
Guys like me don't even know where to begin when you start talking about regulations.
Yeah, for sure. So based off of today then, Alan, what is your, because I'm sure everybody's thinking this, what's your favorite bike that you've ridden and that you prefer?
Well, we have a lot of KTMs. I think we prefer those. The reason we prefer KTMs is they are the easiest motorcycle to work on by far. You can access all the bolts. They have skinny little frames in them. You can get to everything. They never break down.
Yeah.
Like never. And like this bike right here, I've got 120 hours on it. It hasn't even much as taken a wrench to that thing. So
yeah.
KTMs are my favorite. What I don't like about them is they vibrate, and they drive you nuts because they vibrate. Of course, you get used to it. I like Yamahas too. I like them because they're smooth and they look cool. I love blue. Blue's my new favorite color. See, wear a blue shirt.
Yeah.
So I like Yamahas, but my Yamaha let me down last year. Blew up in the middle of the backcountry. Made me real mad.
Yeah.
It's got half the amount of hours. These KTMs, they just go and go and go and go and go. They never have problems.
Yeah.
The other thing I like about KTMs is how quickly they start. So if you ride with us, your problem's going to be getting your bike started fast enough. So we stop a lot, shut your bike off, and you just pull the clutch in, give it 1/2 revolution on the starter button, and it's running, and you're gone.
See, that's what I tell everybody with my Cowies. I can start them so fast compared to the KTM that I've never had an issue.
Well, I mean, you ride with Rush. If your bike doesn't start on the first revolution, he's freaking 200 yards in front of you, and you can't catch him. Yeah. No, I'm serious. You're gone. You're done.
Yeah,
you have to get your shit running. You have to get it running, and you have to let that clutch out, and you don't want to have to find neutral every time you turn it off. So that's probably deep down is probably the biggest
one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Have you? And it's funny because everybody has their favorite kit. My experience so far is just, and I have a lot less obviously, but I have had 3 Cowies now, and I've had 0 issues, 450 plus hours on one, and they start every time, and I easy to work on. Same thing, man. Like that's been my take so far.
Back before we had electric start bikes, we had Kawasaki. Our demo fleet was Kawasaki's.
Really?
And the reason was because of how easy they started with a Kickstarter. And not only could you kick them with a 1/2 kick in the pedal, you could start them by hand.
I have a 2016 I rode for 4 years, and I had to start that thing by hand all the time.
Oh yeah, you just plunk down on the lever with your hand. It don't kick back on you. It's not hard to push down, and it just starts and idles without giving it gas.
Yep.
So, but it's been a while since I've had a Kawasaki. I don't dislike them. I don't know. I seem like KTMs are in the middle of my path all the time.
Well, once they came out with the electric start, the 2019, which is I've got a couple of those. Oh man, they're a freaking dream. Like I've loved them, man. They're great running bikes, and never an issue with them. So, well, I know everybody has, like I said, has their own kind of kit that they like, but it's always fun hearing what other people like and why. So, well, Alan, thanks again for your time, man. It's been a lot of fun. We've covered a lot of stuff, and I know there's big things to come, man, and it's going to be an amazing season. I'm really looking forward to riding the kit, getting out riding with you guys. And anything else you want to say before we jump off, man?
I think I'm good. I'm ready for winter, and I want to ride.
Yeah.
Hopefully us being able to do all these big, long conversations help people stay excited about snowbiking. I'm ready to go riding, and winter's just around the corner.
Absolutely, man. Well, thanks, dude. We'll be riding soon, and really appreciate your time, Alan.
Yep, you bet. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for all you're doing, man. I appreciate you ramrodding all this.
Thanks, man. I'm good at ramrodding things.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, somebody's got to be the facilitator.
That's right, man. All right. We'll see you later, Alan.
Okay. All right.
All
Thanks.
right. Take care, man.
Yeah.
All right. Bye. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up. Man, 3 hours and 55 minutes was the full interview. So, for all of you who listened to the end, congratulations. You get a gold star. But no, really, appreciate you guys listening. If you've listened this long, you love snowbiking just as much as I do, and Allen and so many others out there. It's an amazing, amazing sport. And I'm really excited for what the future holds. I can't even begin to think where it's going, but I know there's good things to come. And just thank you guys for your support and all you do for just the snowbike community in general. So, get someone on a snowbike, get them out there riding, share the love, share it with other people. I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do to help grow this sport is get someone out there and get them on a snowbike, and they're going to be hooked just like the rest of us. So lots of good things to come. Make sure you visit the website snowbikenation.com and subscribe to our newsletter. Make sure you subscribe to our podcasts, all the other good stuff, YouTube channel, and just more to come, guys. So check out the merch that we'll have on the website, and lots more fun podcasts and interviews to come. So hey, if you guys have any questions, please send your comments in from the website. You can also hit me up on Instagram, YouTube. We're all over the place. So, guys, I'm going to go eat some food. Thanks for watching. And until next time, take care, ride safe, and ride hard.